changes.
Life. Life.
I was fine when you held my hand. I was fine when you pulled me down. You said the stars would answer. You said our prayers were written down. I was fine when you pulled me in. We were forced to be human, and then the world came after, and I had never questioned it. And they said it was wrong. Started it all.
Welcome all to the Smite Prime Friday tournament. I am your host, Myth Comcast, otherwise known as a Comcast employee. Alongside me, Sinbreed. We got the battle of the powerhouses. Singularity on the right on the Apwash and Echang on the Hindu. Sinbreed, we haven't seen much Hindu so far. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, my first impression of it was it's really strong, but at the same time it was really slow. So I'm interested to see if what Singularity is gonna do to take care of all the pillars here. Like we can see that the pillar of Fortitude is already in play for Ichang, so that's something that he has to focus down now, or he's gonna get a big advantage.
I want to actually point out the Raise the Graves. We never ever see this early of a Raise the Graves. Do you think Singularity did that? Played assuming Lingering Dead into Raise the Graves because he's up against a Hindu Pantheon? Or do you think it was just because he had the ability to do so?
I believe he did have one of his zombies next to the stone, and then it was dispatched by Ichang. So he did get those 4 damage in, and that after that I believe he played the Pillar of Fortitude, and then he just had to replay the zombie.
Now, right now, I would say we are spectating the power of the Hindu Pantheon, primarily from a single card known as Pillar of Fortitude, right? This bad boy giving that +2 health. If you're an old player, that may remind you of the old Bologna leader ability, and the fact that this gives you it for 2 mana and it's every single unit you place down is what makes this card so incredibly strong. Now, obviously, Singularity does have an answer via Anguish, which is very possible, but you have to also remind yourself that if you silence a 4/4, it's going to go back to a 1/1. So it's a good card here, definitely, and he needs to silence that Fortitude, doesn't he?
Yeah, I actually thought he was going to go for the Anguish on his 1/1 there for the Pillar, then kill the Archer, and then maybe play a Xbalanque to try and get rid of the Archer that spawned. But it seemed like he has some other plans in mind here.
Now, another thing that makes Pillar of Fortitude so incredibly strong is you have to remember, the health does not go away once it's taken down. So no matter what happens, those 1/3s remain 1/3s. Choosing to Anguish the War Behemoth, what is this play, Sinbreed?
Well, it looked like he did do the curse mode, so maybe he misplayed in his mind with not doing the silence before he killed off the Archer, so that might be it in my opinion, but we'll see here if it's going to help him out here with getting the silence on the War Behemoth instead here.
I really do like War Behemoth is such a great card because even when you lose the ability to card draw, you still have that 3/6 bulk. And I think health is heavily underrated in the current game. People say, oh, it's because this unit's bulky but has a relatively low attack line that it's not valuable. And I think Echeng is proving here, yes, Singularity used one of his most crucial cards and did negate the card draw from War Behemoth, but it doesn't change the fact that that's still a 3/2, which is pretty hefty on board. Not to mention, we've also going to see the Poisonous Hydra come out. Now, Sinbreed, from what I understand and from what I've definitely played, this is probably one of the strongest, if not the strongest neutral cards in the game. Can you show some light on why it's so strong?
Yeah, of course. So if you can play this when you have 4 mana, that basically tells your opponent that they have to either take damage from it, and it's 4 damage, or they have to play 2 mana to use it. Basically, you get your turn back instantly with your opponent doing nothing in the early game, and it's also a 4/4 for 4 mana, so it's greatly statted as well.
Just that ability to set your opponent off curve is what makes, in my opinion, this card just so incredibly strong. We're seeing the Kukulkan come out here. Kukulkan is such he's a legendary unit, but he earns his title just via the ability to disrupt the board. And one thing that Hindu has really emphasis on is the fact that you need your board to stay like relatively consistent, right? Like the pillars, you want to make sure they're defended. Whereas the Kukulkan shakes things up, you know. He says, I don't care about where your pillars are. Let's have some fun with this. He may choose this. He's going to actually nuke the board here. Is he going to full clear? No, he's gonna get very,
Oh.
very close.
But this Hydra is still alive, which is very, very important for Isheng here.
Gonna take that 4 damage. See, that's also what makes the Hydra so incredibly strong. Is if you choose not to play off curve a bit and play that 2-mana spell, you take 4 damage. Now, I think Singularity's in a spot where he can afford it, but at the same time, I do believe he has to get rid of that card eventually, and more importantly, like early, he has to get rid of it within a couple turns. Otherwise, that 4 damage stacks up. Really interesting play, and this is why I think Pre-Science is a mixture of emotions, right? Is he drew Robin and 2 Pillar of Exiles. Now, from your experience with Hindu, right? Pillar of Exile is one of the most crucial cards. But remember,
Definitely.
Pre-Science, those 2 you don't pick go back into at the bottom of your deck.
Yeah, so it will have Pillars of Exile if he goes really late game, goes to Fatigue here to take out key pieces from Singularity. But I'm a little interested here to see also that he could have played the other Hydra here, making it a 5/7, and Singularity doesn't have much to deal with it besides a decay.
I think Singularity's trying to bait out the decay on the Poisonous Hydra or the Gallus. And speaking of, oh my bad, not Gallus, Gladiator. And speaking of Gladiator, like I was saying, one of my favorite combos in the Hindu Pantheon is having Gladiator plus Pillar of Fortitude, because you get a nice 4/6 on board, and every turn you spawn these 0/3 structures that heal you. Now, I don't care about the healing aspect. I care about the ability to block your opponent. That is such an insanely powerful movement penalty, you know?
Yeah, that's actually what I wanted to ask you about. Like, how played it? Like, do you try to block off the front of the enemy summoning stone, or do you go for the back line of the summoning stone?
It depends on the matchup. If I'm up against a Norse, I'll generally try to put it in the front, slow some of that early aggression, and make sure I can maintain tempo. But if I'm up against, like in this situation, putting it in the back line, preventing those hard-to-reach spots, I think is definitely the way to go. Now, gonna trade out the Hydras, which is perfectly fine, because Etchang's got a flipping 5/7 Lamian Hydra on the board. Tell me about how broken this card is, Sinbreed.
Well, it's pretty good, especially versus Pantheon that does damage-based removal, like the Zeus and some of the Singularities spell here. He could go for a Hallelujah Bloodbond here, but
I love that.
I mean, he almost has to. Like, we see in Isheng's hand, like, if that lives for 1 turn, he's gonna have 2 5/7s. No, actually they're gonna be no. Is it?
Yeah, because he's Pillar of Fortitude up.
Oh, yeah.
Illusion procs that. Trust me, I've played around with that insane combo. So he's gonna go for the Blood Bond, not finding success. And this is actually another reason why I think I like the Hindu matchup into Mayan, because you diffuse because Mayan's all about RNG. There's a lot of RNG aspects of it. So granted, you do set up for a pretty nasty blight, but on the up end, Blood Bonds are rendered nearly useless because he had an insanely low chance of getting that, and that Hydra was the key to victory for Singularity. He needed to kill that unit, and it is still up as we see.
Yeah. Okay, good. He is attacking first here. That's gonna buff up the illusion as well here when it comes down. So, yeah, Singularity has a tough. Oh, it's also in range of the summoning stone in the next turn as well.
What a fantastic Hydra spawn. An 8/9, and just for the new viewer, remember, an 8/9, this Hydra can only be killed by hard removal, because he takes 1 damage from every source otherwise, which, if you ask nearly anybody, is one of the most insane cards to ever exist, and I would almost say in a card game. So we're seeing this power just come out, and I think Chang just wins this. What do you think, Simbri?
Yeah, it looks really tough for Singularity. And I think his deck was laughing a little bit at him. Like, after the illusion comes down, the next card he draws is the Decay. He would have loved to have that one turn earlier, and this game could have been in the completely opposite end. Like, a top deck Blight would almost put him ahead instead, but now these two Hydras, like, he has to pull off, I don't know, a miracle.
A miracle indeed. The only way he could do anything is he has to decay, or he's just gonna have 6 here. But that's the power of the Hydras, you know. So Simbrick, do a real quick breakdown of how that game transpired.
Well, the thing was that Isheng was nullifying the early Rise to Grave from Singularity, and then just basically was the whole game. Then played the Hydras and made them so huge that Singularity did not have a response to them. And one other thing I want to say about also that nice synergy with Hydras in Hindu is with the pillars. They heal them up as well, so they take so less damage than in other Pantheons.
Not to mention there's also a bevel of other buffing cards that so you can get a pretty and dangerously high statted Hydra, including like the Protect 2 card. Well, yes, Ed Chang taking game 1 on the Hindu, the first time we're really seeing his Pantheon in action. I'm excited to see more. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with game 2. Will Singularity be able to take it back? You'll have to find out. Welcome back. This is Game 2, Singularity versus Echeng, both on the Opwash this game. My name is Myth Comcast. You also know me as a Comcast employee. Alongside me is Sinbreed. The Opwash is something... Actually, I enjoy it a lot, to be honest. Because it is true this sense of, like, RNG, just consuming the entire board. Blood bonds like that are going to potentially impact the game now that his Hunbats are dead. How do you feel about this RNG, Super?
I mean, it's not... I like this matchup because I think it's very skill intensive, even though a lot of people think it's RNG. Like, I guess yes, with the Rise to Grave if you get that off early, but still you can do stuff to prevent it, like play a Velix and stuff like that. But we'll see here who can get the board control first here.
Indeed, and I'll tell you right now that Poisonous Hydra certainly helps. Having that on the board means your opponent is either going to take 4 damage or be at 4 mana the following turn. Now, I think perfect play would just be take out the poison, get rid of that damage, and place down Gladiator and start pelting the enemy Summoning Stone. But, you know, I mean, what do you think is the best play then?
Yeah, it's either that or if he feels like you want to go for Bond. Oh, it's Rise the Grave actually. It's gonna be really aggressive here.
And early Raise the Grave means that Singularity's Grave actually be really soon. It depends on if Singularity can be able to pull this off. The Decay, which he's not, he would never Decay 4/4, would he?
No, not when you have Anguish in his hand, no. I would think it is he's gonna silence his Hydra or a zombie here.
I think he's going to play a zombie on a Summoning Stone. Yep, Anguish 1/4/4 is probably the backline one. That's what I would assume. Or the front line. Oh, I see. No, I don't know. I think he's trying to save Hydra, which is reasonable. I see that. Do you think that was the right play to try to save Hydra?
Yeah, I think so, because they're still even in health here on the Summoning Stones. And he does have the Raise the Grave in his hand, so I thought they actually will not Barter Soul there and try maybe to raise I Ching there, because they have the same power on the board at that current moment. But Singularity could have 2 zombies up with Raise the Grave there, and I Ching could only have 1.
Most definitely, and I mean, as we're seeing right here, the Smorking powers coming out strong, being I love, and I believe the what? How did the Hydra's poison contribute 8 damage, or was it 4 damage?
I believe it was only once, but looking at the Summoning Stone, it looks like it took a lot of damage.
It becomes incredibly hard to believe that was only once, you know, when your opponent's at 11 health. So obviously I Ching's in a pretty favorable spot here. Singularity can try to block off that War Behemoth. Or no, he's gonna try to go for he's gonna actually go for the successful Blood Bond. That 50/50 though.
That was really risky.
That was really risky, and it did in fact pay off. Now we're gonna see in Echeng's hand, he does have the correction, wrong hand. Having the Gladiator is really nice here, and I believe that's exactly what he's gonna go for. He's just gonna try to pelt the Summoning Stone, you know, and this is a stressful situation for Singularity because he has to get rid of these zombies because you never know when your opponent's gonna have the second Raise the Graves.
Yeah, or the Camazotz, as we see in I Ching's hand. So he is threatening lethal next turn if Singularity does not do anything on this board, does not deal with his Gladiator or the zombies.
I don't think he would let it go to that. Playing this, he may go for a
Mercenary, I believe here.
I do.
Mercenary plus Hydra.
Yeah, Mercenary. Yep. That is the play, I believe. They'll produce a what? Did he just Swift the order? Oh,
no,
choosing to Raise the Graves instead in the tactic. Now, I'll tell you right now, we don't see a defensive Raise the Graves nearly ever, right? It's just too good of a finisher. It can knock out your opponent in just a handful of turns. But the defensive Raise the Graves is definitely still a possibility. You know, those 4/4s on your own Summoning Stone will kill anything that even comes close to it.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that Singularity is acknowledging here that I Ching, if he had some charge, if he still runs Blade Master in his deck or Camazotz, that he will be in a lot of danger of losing this game last turn. So he's just trying to clear the board right now, like get the board control in his favor.
Gonna Blood Bond and get a fairly good zombie. I mean, I think any zombie's as good as any right there. We do see as a Camazotz in hand, that is a potential lethal condition, especially when you have 3 zombies on the board. However, I do believe Singularity is going to continue to play carefully and safely. Like, I don't see any reason why he'd quit now.
No, but we do see a Blood Bond also in the hand of Yicheng. So if one of these zombies stay alive, then it could be real problematic for Singularity in the coming turns here.
Yeah, exactly. And not to mention, I think Camazotz would have lethal. Would he? Potentially?
No, 2 off, right?
I believe. Yeah, no, yeah, I'm wrong. Rip. But the same thing comes down though. Camazotz. This is why people actually keep him in this deck. 'Cause, innately a 5/5 with charge isn't though like the grandiose, right, that you always want for legendary. However, the ability to just gain a crazy amount of buffs based on just 2 or 3 zombies, that becomes an 8/8. So your opponent has to hard removal it, and if he doesn't, then you lose the game. So Camazotz is a situational legendary, but do you think he deserves, or a spot should be justified to him?
Definitely, I think he's a very strong finisher in the current meta as well. Like, if you get on head on board, like with a couple of zombies, like one zombie survives and then you're a 9 mana, you make another zombie. There's a 7/7 charge, and your opponent has to deal with that as well. So, in my opinion, it's a very good card still.
Singularity gonna get some been more lucky. Actually, I don't know who got the RNG last time, but it doesn't even matter at this point. Gonna get some nice RNG on his own side, maintaining a board state. Now, he should also be careful, though, because I think he sees the Camazotz potentially coming out. He has a single decay, so Echeng really has to top deck to win almost, or to some degree, like a Blight be fantastic here. Like, oh my gosh, wouldn't a Blight be great?
Well, the thing is that if Yicheng blights, Singularity is just gonna blight right afterwards. We see that he already has it in hand, so that's the thing in this matchup as well. Like, you do not want to be the one blighting first, in case your opponent does have the blight of his own, because then it's just gonna be really, really bad for the one who does it first.
Indeed, he who blights first will taste defeat first, as we say. And this is where I talk about the Mayan matchup. It's a really interesting because when you have a card like Blight, which swings a game entirely, you have to remind yourself that there's such things as swing sets. Will swing right back in your face, and you're gonna get hit really hard if you establish a board that you blight it, or your opponent blights it, and then you just blight back, because then you have the exact board that your opponent thought he lost. The only general solution is a X-Ball, assuming they don't have a Raise the Graves. And in this case, Echeng, I believe he already used both of his X-Balls. So Singularity, I would say he should feel comfortable here, potentially raising the Graves.
Yeah, but I like...
blighting.
I like how Singularity is positioning his zombies, though, here. Like, putting 2 on the same lane here, and just reinsuring that Warbehemoth is not going to touch the stone and get it into that Camazotz range, and just putting a lot of pressure back on Yicheng as well.
I mean, it's looking almost like Yicheng's... Actually, it looks like Singularity's game to lose. I got the wrong name there. Just because, like, he has the board presence and he has all of his lanes blocked, and that's not something Echeng wants. He's trying to finish off the games here, right? Like, that is his primary goal. Awilix could certainly help with that potentially, but at the end of the day, he's going to need an opening, and he's going to need some zombies for his Camazotz.
Yeah, and I like the position of him spawning a zombie here, because the only one in range is a 4/1 of his zombie. So he has to sacrifice a 4/1 zombie, or he's just gonna take some shift damage.
It's also worth mentioning that Singularity just drew or has an X-Ball in hand, which means it is a perfect counter to the Blight that could potentially come out. So this is actually a really intense game right now, I would say. Just surely because the fact that Singularity has his Kukulkan on board, and Echeng doesn't actually. He has the decay, but remember that's 6 mana right there. Like, can you afford 6 mana when the board is potentially about to get raised to grave, and then you're sitting at 2 health?
Yeah, I mean, Singularity, I think, made a small mistake that turn, though. We saw that zombie attacking the Warbehemoth, he could have gone down one step and finished off the Aviolix, which did not have the bubble on her at that point. So there would have been a full clear. Instead, now there's a decay on his Kukulkan. So, like, I-Ching is still in this game.
I mean, right now it's looking really intimidating because you have that Gladiator up, right? Gladiator just has the ability. I mean, he's insane value, right? Because he gives you effectively 6 mana or 6 mana worth of value for 4 mana, which is why we've actually seen him just skyrocket into play consistently. Now, with Singularity, his primary objective should be my opponent will not kill me with Camazotz. Do you think he is thinking that right now, Simbreed?
Well, I believe it was, but looking at how he's positioning right now, I would say maybe not, because he is opening the bottom path open for I-Ching to go in right now. Oh, he's gonna play X-Ball there? Okay, he's actually shoring up a bit here, but still the middle is still open as well here.
I mean, that is a really spooky situation. He's gonna actually Moon, just try to get a unit on board. But unfortunately, Camazotz won't really care about that. He's lethal.
Yeah, with a ritual strike.
He's lethal via attack, and then well, the Camazotz is going to swoop down, ending game. I-Ching taking the set 2-0. Simbreed, what happened? Usually we see Singularity as this player who runs these quirky-ish decks and is able to pull it off, but getting 2-0'd by I-Ching, and remember, from the looks of it, Singularity was running a pretty standard Mayan deck. What contributed to Singularity's downfall?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't say it was the standard Mayan that he was running. I've saw a lot of, like, what's it called, defiled. The one that if you have 2 zombies on board, you draw 2 cards.
I mean, I like running that in my
Dead.
Mayan decks, but maybe it's just me.
Yeah, maybe. But from the list that I've been seeing, the top tier players play before, like his list was definitely like it usually are in these kind of tournaments. Maybe he's trying out something new that he's been working on, and it didn't just pan out in the mirror. I mean, it looked like I-Ching was just running the standard build right there.
Yeah. I mean, the Hindu is certainly a treat to see, considering we haven't seen much of it, and exactly how it should be played at its full maximum. But what I would say is, or I would ask you, do you think, because you have a bit different opinion, you think Singularity is running this pretty quirky deck, do you think that made him lose the game, or do you think that wasn't a contributing factor?
Yes and no. Like, I think it's very good for him that he is one of those players that you're afraid to play in the tournament, just because you know that he is going to mind game you a bit with some not standard cards in his deck that can throw you off guard. So you have to always keep in mind when you play against him that he might have like one of the Satyrs, for example, or something like he's still running a Blade Masters plus Fire Giant and stuff like that. You never know what you going to get when you play with Singularity.
Indeed. Well, unfortunately, City will take the fall here. We'll probably see him again tomorrow. I-Ching's going to move up the ladder a bit. Guys, stay tuned. We'll be bringing you the next game in just a minute.
for Hand of the Gods here on Smite Prime. I am RML. I'm here casting with the wonderful Sinbreed. Sinbreed, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Nice to see some amazing Hand of the Gods action here.
Indeed, and as is to be expected lately, these guys are just moving at 1,000 miles per hour. We've got Striker on the op wash, and Raw is on his... Cole is on his Raw. And do you think a Wheelish is a good target for a silence, or do you want to save it for something larger at the end of the game?
Well, looking at the board right now, I think it's a good target here, just because it's going to trade with everything that Cole has that he can put out. So at that time, it's a good one. Also, it has the Halloween skin, so he has to die that faster because it's more awesome, you know?
I like it. I come from an original Smite background, and it's a pretty good skin. Now, in a Raw op wash matchup, who do you favor? Who's got the better long term? Who's got the better match overall?
Well, with these new cards coming in with the Hydras and the Satyrs, basically, I think that Cole with the Raw is going to have a better matchup, just because he did also not get that with 2 zombies into Raise the Grave early. So, and we do see that he has Annihilation as well in his hand, so I think he's pretty well set up for this game right now. But we'll see if Striker can change my mind a bit.
Indeed, it definitely does seem like, as of right now, Striker does have the better position. He's got the Cabrakan, he's got the Gladiator, which is so core on these aggressive decks, the Opwashes, the Odins, and the Execute on Cabrakan. Would you have used it on the Cabrakan, or would you have used it on the Gladiator there?
Probably on the Cabrakan, just because it's going to get up to your Summoning Stone next turn, and you do not have anything that can really compete with it right now. But as we see, Striker is just gonna pounce on the Cole. He just played one of his Executes and hope that he doesn't have a second one with his Kukulkan here and try to take a big lead here.
Yes, and this turn, Striker's just piling more on. Do you Annihilation here? This board, to me, looks like an Annihilation's wet dream. Would you use it here? Take out the zombies and the Gladiator, or would you save it to try and deal with the Cuckoo somehow?
I'm not sure, like, it is tempting to do it here, but you're going to lose all of your stuff as well if you do it here, because there's going to be 4 Kukulkan triggers, and they are going to kill all of your stuff. So I would see if I can find a play around it here with like an Anubis or maybe a Hydra to stop the onslaught here. You could play the Neef here and start buffing up his Brontes.
Yeah, that's interesting. He does have a Neef. That's something that in a lot of these Raw decks and on the tournament on Thursday night as well, we didn't see too many Neefs. Normally in these Raw decks, you see your Sobex, you see your Toths, as we see the Anubis coming out to deal with the Gladiator. We don't see too many Neefs. She's fairly solid, of 4/4 range that on heals gets the global attack. Why are people going for Toth over Neith when she can do much of the same thing?
Well, the thing with Thoth is that he clears usually 2 targets when Neith only clears 1 when you put a heal down. And also, Thoth excels a lot more with Khepri as well. So that's also one of the reasons, I believe. Just because, like, you can almost clear a whole lane with a Khepri plus Thoth combo. With a Neef plus Khepri, like, you only get 1 as well at that point.
Sounds good. As we see, Striker is he's just trying to clear anything and everything he can. That Tornado, not the best he could have hoped for. The best would have been for it to have hit that Anubis so he could potentially deal with it, but well, he deals with it anyway, and things are not looking good for Ra.
No, I actually think that was the optimal play that he could have done that, just because he did have the Shockless Ritual Strike there, and he is putting on so much pressure on Cole here, so Cole has to go for the Annihilation. Because if there's a Rise the Grave, and we see that that would have been the draw as well for Striker there, like, would have been a lot of trouble for Cole there.
Yeah, but with the Annihilation down, there's not too much hyper clear that Ra has. With him having, the Hydra and the Neath and the Harpy, I don't think he has a Toth in his deck. Or if he does, we haven't seen it yet. I personally do not see a way out of this for Cull. I think this is getting pretty close to the end.
Well, he needs to pull off Execute here. Oh, it's going to concede the game actually here with the silence on the Hydra.
Yeah, that silence on the Hydra is just the big appeal of the Hydra is not the +3/+0 when it attacks. That's just icing on the cake. The appeal of the Hydra is it only takes 1 damage from a single source at a time. So if you're hit with 5 1/1s, that's 5 damage. But if you're hit with 5 6 8s, that's still 5 damage.
Exactly, and with the raw ability as well to start healing it up. So it's a very good match with the Hydra when you play raw, but we'll see if he can redeem himself in the next game here.
Do you want to see him bring back the raw, or do you want to see him switch it up?
Well, I always like to see more Pantheons played, but I mean, raw is still one of the more solid choices to go with, so we'll see.
We will see. We will be back in a few brief moments. Stay tuned as we continue on in the Friday night tournament. And welcome back. We have another set between another match, between Striker and Cull. Cull has gone to this op wash, and we have Striker on the new Wa. What is it about new Wa? She was gone for a while. We didn't really see her too much in these upper levels, and then in the past week, she's just burst onto the scene. What is it? Just the new cards, or is there something else about new Wa that has caused her to sort of rush in out of nowhere?
Well, I don't really know the answer to that, because like I've been playing some on the ladder, but I usually run into the Beast Wall list and they just run me over, to be completely honest with you. So I'm excited to see here what Striker can do with this Control new Wa.
Yes, Control new Wa is, on my experience on the ladder, I've run into the opposite. I've run into far too many Control new Was, and I play Zeus the most, and Control new Wa is impossible to deal with unless you have some very good ramp. I honestly don't know why we haven't seen Nuwa more, but I'm glad to see her now. I have a lot of high hopes for this. But for this matchup, who has the advantage? Do you think Nuwa has it with it being a heavy control deck against an easy to control Opwash, or does Opwash just overrun?
Well, it's hard to say. I would probably put Cull in the better position here. Just looking at the board state right now with a Kukulkan and a Gladiator out. And he does have a really good hand. He does have the Blight. He has a lot of options here. He can go for Rise the Grave just to take out the Ho Yi here. He can make another 4/4 as well. So, yeah, he has a lot of decisions that he can do this turn. I liked his spot in this game.
Yeah, he does seem to be in a very good position. Now, let's take a step back. Take a moment. You're in this match. Do you Blight here? You get only one Blight in your entire deck, and it is a fantastic clear. Do you really use it here? I don't know why he used that so early.
Well, I can tell you why. Because we do see Rise the Grave in his hand here. So if Striker does not respond with a sweeper of his own, then like Cull is just gonna run away with this with a bunch of 4/4 zombies. He does have the answer here to see, but like he is still under a lot of pressure here.
The board state seems pretty even now, with Nuwa having her Gladiator and Opwash having a Cuckoo. That Rolling Thunder deals with Opwashes and with Odin so fantastically because they tend to have such lower level minions, such low health minions that it just wipes the field. What do you think Cull has to do to sort of regain board presence?
Well, he still has the board here. It does go for the Barter Soul here. Does get Gladiator plus Blight back. So he does get the Blight back, which is huge here. He doesn't have that sweeper for Striker when he's trying to get back on the board here.
I can't remember. Did Striker see that he got Blight back, or do you not see what cards they got from Barter Soul?
You can actually see what cards they get back, because it will appear if you click on the magnifying glass. It will appear as in hand from your opponent. So you can always see what cards they get back every single time. So that's one of the features that I really, really like that you actually do, because you do see discovery cards. So I think that you have to be able to see also the cards that you get from, such as getting back from your graveyard.
Yeah, that Blight pickup means that, as I mentioned before, you can only get one Blight, but if you bring it back, well, you get it twice, and he keeps the Poisonous in hand in favor of getting the Fire Giant to wind up clearing the field and putting more damage on the stone.
Yeah, he's basically just putting so much pressure here on Strike Arrow to just have some big answer. He needs like Guan Yu plus some Crescent Blades here to be able to do anything.
And we see that he does not have the Guan Yu.
Unfortunately not. But he does have the Blade Master as well. But with the change to Blade Master, it does not longer have the War Cry, so it does not heal your Summoning Stone for free anymore.
Yeah,
yeah.
That change was huge. We saw Blade Master in just about every single deck, right? No one was not running it. It was just that powerful. 4/7 with heal 3 and charge, that's too good to pass up.
Yeah, definitely. So, we'll see here. I believe Cull does have Lethal on the table here with the Common Sauce plus a Make a See if he actually sees. Looks
yes,
like
he
he does. And he does also get so that Sun Wukong does not body block his units here, so he does get a lethal attack.
Yeah, if that Cuckoo had moved the Sun Wukong into the front of the stone, meaning that the Camzots could not attack, I think he still would have lethal. No, he wouldn't. I'm thinking of the Bull Demon King that has the cleave attacks, not the Fire Giant.
Yeah, so it would have been 1 damage off lethal if that would happen, but as we saw, that did not happen. So, yeah.
So it's now 1-1 in the match between Striker and Cole. We'll be right back after this. And welcome back to the final match of this set between Striker and Cull. We have Striker bringing out the Odin, and Cull bringing back the Ra. Now, traditionally, Ra has the upper hand when it comes to a Ra Odin match, just because the sustain makes the Cursed Warriors unable to deal the early damage that they need to, and, well, Ra just has bigger things that Odin can't really deal with.
Yeah, but I'm a little concerned here that Striker Row is not going for the early damage on the Summoning Stone, just putting some respect to like a Sobek or a Thoth later on here. But in my opinion, you should try to push the damage on the Summoning Stone as much as you can as an Odin, because it looks like this is one of the more aggressive the Odin decks as well, so we'll see how it goes here for Striker Row.
Yeah, this is definitely an aggro Odin deck. I expect the Runestone of Iris to be coming out. Surtur's usually shoved in for that early pressure. Although you don't see Ymir too much in those aggro decks. Ymir is more of a control god. What's with the Ymir? Just a big body, or?
Well, Ymir with the charge is basically what you're looking at here. So that is why people are running it. Just get that extra stun in, get the board control on the board basically with it. At least what I think it is. That's what I play it for. Striker might have some other opinion. We'll see later in this match, hopefully, if that's the case.
Yeah, Striker is taking a lot of time to figure out whether he should go full hog, and he doesn't. He does know the Surtur was silenced, right? Why is he still keeping it back in range of both when he could have gotten the extra damage on Stone?
Well, he is body blocking here, I believe, or playing around something. I'm not sure what, because if there was a Magma Slam, if he Magma Slammed the Calder, he still wouldn't. Like, he needed 2 Magma Slams to be able to take out the Skadi there.
Yeah, that. And even with the Surtur there body blocking, that's only body blocking if you place it where Cull placed Khepri. The space above and to the top right, those can still reach that Scotty if need be.
Yeah. Gotta be a buff omen here. Not sure about that. It was not really needed because if he's gonna take out the Capri, he still was a 4/4. So I'm a little interested why he made that play there. Maybe he saw something wrong, or he is just playing around the Annihilation here coming up on the 6-mana turn.
That's what it is. The Annihilation, if he had left up Scotty at the 4/4, Annihilation kills it, kills the Surtur, deals all damage to the stone, and severely wounds the Mirror. So he just adds the buff in, makes Scotty 5/5, so even if Colored Annihilation, still up and running and able to hit stone for 5. But the Anubis to root the Scotty, she's not in range of the stone here, is she?
Yeah, she is in the range here. As when you go for the middle, like you can always think of if range, they always have free ranged attack with 2 movement, and Ellie has free range with one range with 3 movement.
Yeah, things are looking kind of grim for Cole. Do you Annihilation here? Is there any other play but Annihilation?
I mean, I would probably try to hold it here. You did see Striker Roll at 7 mana just make a 1/1 Cursed Warrior, and he has 4 cards in hand. Like, he is playing around it and not overcommitting to the board. And, like, let's see. Like, he could go double Sobek and go for double heal to try and combat Striker Roll on the board. But he's going to go for the Annihilation here.
Yeah, for me, it seems like that was the only call. You've got such a heavy board presence that Scotty, if you traded in, your Anubis was dead, meaning you'd concede board pressure entirely. I feel as though the Annihilation was the only real play, but that still leaves up Striker to deal a lot of to the Summoning Stone. Who do you want to see Striker play?
Definitely play Scotty here. So you do get 5 damage on the Summoning Stone directly just from that card. And if you have played any other card, it would not be that high a damage output. You do have the Soul and you do have the 4 if you need that extra charge, or if you needs the extra AoE clear, you have the Soul instead of the 4. So I really like the positioning of Striker here.
Yeah, this positioning prevents some easy clear attempts for this Fire Giant. This interesting that Striker's calling up a good game. I don't think Cole can win this. All Striker needs to do is Scotty Thor, and it's over.
It goes for the BM attack on the Fire Giant as well to finish off this game as well here. So great showing here from both players, showing that why they went through to the final stage of this tournament as well.
Oh, definitely. The versatility they've shown as well. Every week that we come here and we wind up watching these guys play, watching these guys go at it, we see newer strategies come in. We see new gods come in, and, well, not new gods, new pantheons come in and fall out. Every week, everyone's just getting better and better and better. It'll be interesting to see. I believe we have some Hindu decks still in the finals. I believe, right? Someone brought it out?
Yeah, we did see Yisheng bring it out, but unfortunately, he got paired against Potpie in the first round of the final stage, and Potpie is a monster.
Potpie is terrifying.
Yeah, Potpie did win 2-1 to Yisheng, so hopefully we did win with the Hindu Pantheon though.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see more of the Hindu Pantheon. It'll be interesting to see going forward, will the Blade Masters fall out of favor? Are we going to see we've seen a lot of these Hydras, the Lernian and the Poisonous Hydra, but I haven't seen Satyr Pathfinder or the Rancor Satyr yet. Why are the Hydras more valued than the Satyrs?
Well, they have immediate board present. Like when they come down, they need to get dealt with. With the other ones, the one costs 7, I believe, so it's very hard to play
Yeah, the
in the
Satyr
correct
Pathfinder.
position. Yeah, exactly. And the other one is, it's just a 3/3 range, and its abilities are kind of meh, in my opinion. But we'll see if anyone actually brought those cards here coming up in a couple of rounds here.
And that will be interesting to see. That's going to do it for this set. We will be back in a few moments for the next set as we continue on. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Smite Prime Friday Nights. I'm RML, and I'm here with Myth Comcast, a Comcast employee, Ace, whatever he wants to call himself at that given time. How are you today?
I'm feeling all right. How are you?
I'm a tad tired and just glad to be watching some high-level Hand of the Gods, as there's a lot of passing Drago with Alprosh just bashing down these zombies.
Yeah, it's actually an interesting start because Popeye has a couple options. Because if Fair is running Fable Popeye, if Fair is running a relatively standard Egyptian deck, we'll be expecting to see the Sobex, and placing down the zombies can be very countering Popeye himself, because Sobek will just hit that for one and then heal and then gain that nice buff. So by the way it tells us that Pops has the sheer intent of smorking him to death. So this will be a very interesting game.
Yeah, but the cap rate, well, that's what happens when you're playing Opwash. Into Raw is Kepri doesn't care about your zombies.
I don't think you're definitely not wrong, but that was a very vital resource to use that early. I believe Fair was more concerned about the potential turn 5, I guess, Raise the Graves, and that would have been 12 damage on his Summoning Stone. So the Kepri play was more forced out, if anything, because like I'm not sure that won't come back to bite him in the butt.
Well, as the game gets later, the zombies, sure, they get more frequent, but Opwash tends to have more to play. Like, as you see in his hand, he's got his Opwash, he's got the FG, he's got the Cuckoo. It's to be assumed that he's got probably a Chalk in there. He's probably got a... Actually, no, he probably won't have Hunbot. What happened to Hunbots? We used to see them all the time, and then he's gone.
Actually, I would have to disagree a bit. We've never really seen any Hunbots play, because Hunbots is a very weak god. Primarily there's a bevil of reasons, but I think the largest one is that he takes too long to set up for his value, and while he's low mana cost does not always justify value. Because that is a pivotal deck slot that you're gonna have to give up for Hunbats, and generally speaking, we don't see him very often for that reason.
Well, as we see the Cuckoo come out, Cuckoo just better value than Hunbots? They both have similar interactions off of the deaths, but Cuckoo is 2 damage and displacement to an enemy unit. Is that more valuable than the +1 damage and +1 movement of Hunbots?
I would say so, yeah. Primarily because being a ledge has that bonus, but also for the fact that he's tanky. Hunbats is not tanky. Hunbats will instantly die. I will say though, if you want to see even a tankier in that Kukulkan, look no farther than Lernian Hydra.
Yeah, the Lernian Hydra is terrifying. As someone who plays a lot of Zeus, that is, no matter what deck you're playing, if you see a Lernian Hydra, you've got to use your hard commit. And I'm not talking about your Annihilations, your Divine Vengeances. I'm talking about you need your Executes. You need to just kill it immediately.
While that's needed, Fair does have a Chaos Spawn in hand, so that'll pretty much neutralize the threat. It still will be a pretty intimidating 5/5, and that pretty much will suck up a turn unless he chooses to go for some sort of coin out Thoth play, which is a probability. I don't think it's the best, but certainly is a play. On a side note, though, I do want to go back to that Kepri play. Remember, Kepri is the primary catalyst for Sobek, right? So, in other words,
right.
Sobek needs Kepri to become super big, and playing that super early, I'm not sure was the right play. Wow, backing off. I did not expect that.
I like this play. What this does is all of these guys, except for the Gallus, I'm honestly don't know why we don't see more Gallus. Gallus means that the Blights, the Decays, the Annihilations, the Divine Vengeances, all these massive clears and great wipes just don't mean anything. If say Popeye wanted to play Blight here. Don't know why he would, but if he did, it only hit the Gallus. Why don't we see more Gallus, or is Gallus rising up because of these board wipes, these hard control executes and whatnot?
He is. He's definitely being. We've definitely seen more play from Gallus, but at the end of the day, again, it's taking up a pivotal deck slot, and a lot of decks run very, very tight lists, and they can't necessarily afford a four mana tech card. It's one of these things where it's good, yes, and its value can be incredibly strong, but at the end of the day, sometimes you'd rather, like in the Mayan example, you'd much rather top deck a Cabrakan than you would top deck a Gallus in that instance. So being that 4 mana curve is really important, but more importantly, you have to decide whether a tech card is worth one of the most crucial mana curves of the entire game.
So it's all about the limited space, isn't it?
Exactly, yes. 25 cards, you have to be very, very certain of each card in your deck.
That's likely why we don't see too much Zeus coming around. Is Zeus, I think, has the strictest. He has to get his ramp or he's useless. That's probably why we don't see him as much as even Nuwa and Bologna, who have come up more, albeit as counter picks.
True, but I mean, compared to as we're seeing right here, Mayan and Egyptian, Zeus he's still relatively slow despite the changes, and I don't think we'll be seeing a whole lot of him unless some person comes up with some sort of wacky deck. That I will say that silence was pivotal because besides really Kukulkan, and now like a nerf Fire Giant's not going to really require silence. So long story short, Fair's actually in a good spot because neutralizing that Loranian Hydra is really important on so many different levels.
Yeah, as we see, Fair sort of tries to take back the board, and Popeye, yanks it back again. I want to talk about this Magma Slam. We Magma Slam in more or less every single Raw deck, correct?
Yeah.
Why Magma Slam and why not Focus Blast?
Focus Blast costs more mana, and when you look at the 3 mana curve for units, I believe all of them except for Imperial Guard and Doomspeaker have 4 health. I could be wrong. And it's really efficient. Yeah, well, I mean, Sudo's a bit different though. But I'll talk about that later time. But more importantly, right, the Magma Slam just being 3 mana for 3 damage is really quality, and the heal from Focus Blast is not always applicable in some situations. Sometimes you just need to kill a unit, and you don't need to worry about the extra the extra heal. Like it's like in this case, a Focus Blast wouldn't help him that much because was 19 health. Versus 22 health is nearly the exact same thing. Now, granted, if you're at 7 health, then the Focus Blast is much more coveted. But like in this situation, there's no reason to have run Focus Blast, or there's no reason to even use Focus Blast. But if we're talking about the use sheerly of Magma Slam versus Focus Blast, Magma Slam is just better because it's lower mana cost.
Cheap. That's all. That's what it's all about. Now, I noticed that as Fair Crick is bashed on, thanks to that Raise the Graves. Is that early or is that right on time for Raise the Graves?
Raise the Graves doesn't really have a time. Like if you play it on tempo, you'll generally win, but it's fairly rare and it's very difficult to establish 3 zombies that your opponent even without taking them out. Generally speaking, a high level opponent will see the zombies and instantly start clearing them, so it's generally pretty difficult to get a good Raise Graves. But in this case, if we're talking about at this mana curve, it's sufficient, I would say. It's obviously going to get the job done. It's going to bait out a Fire Giant, so we're getting the value from there. However, is a potential endgame, and Popeye using it this early is kind of worrisome because now he's not going to have. He only has one of those remaining in his deck, and these cards are instantaneous burst that is very much needed if you're trying to clear up a game.
Yeah, and oh no, that Barter Soul. Oh, that is.
I also want to point out, whenever you barter soul and you play a fire giant and you barter soul it back, it's already reduced to at least a 33% chance because of the fire imps. So Pot Pie is definitely beyond even a little lucky in this
Well,
situation.
Not just the fire giant, he also picked up the Lernian Hydra. Those are two cards that are very much execute bait for Fairshik, and he just picked them both up.
Originally, I was concerned because Fair does have the Annihilation Hate for the potential second Raise of Graves, but I don't think he's going to have the opportunity because the Loranian Hydra, he only has one more Execute in his deck, and Loranian tanks so much, and that's why I think a lot of the high-level players and like even in casters and stuff deem the card as very very overpowered because it takes so much and only select pantheons can really deal with it efficiently. Many pantheons, like the Chinese, like Greek, can't necessarily kill it anywhere near on time.
While Greek, I will agree, from personal experience, Greek has a horrid time against the Lernian Hydra. I think that Chinese can deal with it pretty quickly. In a lot of Chinese decks, you see the Blade Forges, you see the Ao Kuangs, you see these control decks. Those Crescent Blade...
Kuang has no effect on it, remember?
Yeah.
He only takes 1 damage from each source.
Well,
But the more important thing is if you want to play 5 spells, be my guest. But at that point, it's going to take so much investment to kill a 6 mana unit. It's ludicrous. But
Yeah.
despite that, the zombies can obviously attack. The X ball will actually be really pivotal, assuming. Oh no! Wait a minute. Pot Pie misplays. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he forgets about the on her, and that actually, do you think he wanted to ignore the war cry?
No, not at all. He was trying to go for the sun power up into the blight, and that would have full cleared board and gave him perfect positioning. But in this case, especially dignified by Pot Pie's curses, we know even former champions can make little misplays here and there.
Yeah, that's just the nature of being someone who plays games. There will be times where everything could be going right, but you goof up once, and sometimes that goof up can wind up costing you.
I mean, it costing you. It's very difficult. I'll say from coaching experience as well. It's very difficult to see, especially here, go say, why did I make this stupid error, or why did I forget that? And it's just the tournament setting a lot of the time, these aren't like, as much as you want to say, hey, these are just my ranked games, I'm playing like I play those. They aren't. There's much more gravity to a loss or a win in each case.
Yeah, you're not playing to, grind up the ranked ladder so you can have that shiny purple 1. You're not just doing that. You're not just grinding the arena to get extra packs and miss out on dust. There's money on the line. These little misplays.
Quite literally, yes.
Yes, exactly. These little misplays can mean the difference between making it to the finals or being knocked out before you even have a chance to see any of the cash.
And if you recall how I was talking about Gallus, this is one of the situations where you pretty much have a null 4-drop, where it's just like Gallus is going to be helpful here, but it's not what you want. At this point, you want to establish intense board presence, especially when Mayan has a thick hand. And remember, he's at 11 health. He's at 11 health now, and Loranian's just going to be a complete nuisance, I would say. Assuming he actually plays it this turn.
Yeah.
And he does.
We've seen both executes already, correct?
I believe we've only seen one. I could be wrong, but it honestly doesn't matter because even if we had only seen one, he wouldn't be able to thing off it because he still has a 5/8 fire giant, which will pretty much trade into everything with very few exceptions. And this is one of the few times where Sobek is not the draw I would want.
Yeah, Popeye is lethal here. Unless Fairs runs Geb into the Chaos Spawn, I'm pretty sure Popeye is lethal.
between maybe, yeah. Wait, we'll have to find out. I'll have to find out
Yeah.
at this point.
But looking at it, he can only heal up to 12. Lernian's going to take running everything into it. He doesn't have the damage to deal with a 5/8.
But he's not going to leave a chaos spawn up though. He would never, because he understands that that's also lethal for himself. So what he'll probably do is play the Sobek as a body block to try to negate the chaos spawn's damage.
I see what he...
Or wait, so I guess not. I guess he's feeling fairly confident. He wants to keep Sobek alive.
I think that may have been a bit of a misplay. He could have bumped that Sobek up even more. Had he kept the Geb in, think of this, the Summoning Stone as the 5 on number pad. You can see the visual, right?
Yeah.
Had he kept the Geb at number 2 and whacked the Fire Giant, he could have bumped that Sobek up to be a 4/6. And the Fire Giant would have been knocked down to a 5/3.
Potentially, yeah, but you don't want to. You need to also consider positioning, where it's super key. But regardless of that of that potential misplay, I don't think it's really gonna matter, like whether you misplayed or not, just because Pot Pie was able to maintain control. But I would always have to say, I think Pot Pie came because of that insane Barter Soul.
That Barter Soul won him the game. I agree. I'm going to outright say it. If I Barter Soul, there is nothing better than getting a Lernian Hydra and a Fire Giant back. Not a single thing is better.
Obviously, depending on the board state, but yeah, for the most part, getting that ridiculously strong 6-drop back is a definite way to win the game. As we've seen, actually, like other Pantheons are able to deploy multiple Hydras have become incredibly successful, primarily via Hindu using the illusion and getting 5, 9, and 7 like insanely statted Hydras. So I think he will mitigate death for one more turn at least.
Yeah. He can't get unless he has. Yeah, looking in his hand, he's got the zombies. He's got the X-Ball. He does have another Barter Soul.
I don't think I guess he could Barter Soul into a Decay potentially, but honestly, at this rate, I don't think it actually matters. Because he just got complete board control. This is what you call a GG situation. Because you have to ask, what could Fair draw that would be able to save him from this game? And I don't know if there is a singular card that'd be able to save him here.
I don't think there's a set of cards. Like, Annihilation wouldn't do it because the Lernian Hydra's still up.
And he's already played it as well.
Yeah. And he doesn't have the Barter Soul. He doesn't have any way of getting it back. This is GG, in my opinion, and it sounds like yours as well. Why do you think Farashik's holding on? What's he hoping for?
I don't think he's hoping for anything. I think it's just that at this point, nobody ever wants to go down. Nobody wants to go down Whimpering. They want to try to go out with a bang. But more importantly, this was regardless still a fairly close game, and I think Fair probably, if I were to, I feel a bit betrayed by RNG. Getting back some of those insane picks will definitely do it. But yeah, that's it. Pot Pie taking game 1.
Yeah, as I was talking with Sinbreed earlier, sometimes the game is determined by you screwing up. Sometimes it's determined because the deck doesn't like you and it likes the other guy better.
I would not disagree. Yeah.
And that'll do it with the first game. We'll be right back with game number 2 of the set of Pot Pie and Faircrick. Stay tuned. And welcome back to Friday Night Hand of the Gods. Right now we have a pot pie against Fairshik, and we've got an Odin up against the Bologna. Now, we've seen a lot more Bologna lately. Is it directly to help deal with these Odins, or is there something else involved?
I believe you're kind of hitting the nail on the head there. Yeah, definitely, because Odin is a frustration. But it's also in the event that we do see Hindu, Roman does have... Because, to put it briefly, Hindu, in order to win, requires early tempo. If they can maintain tempo, they win the game better than any other Pantheon can. However, Roman does a really good job at swinging tempo back in their favor. Via bludgeon, via cards that are just going to destroy the enemy backline. Very few Pantheons, actually I think Roman's the only one who can really do that in the current state. So Roman, I think people are bringing Roman because it kills two birds with one stone. It plays fantastic against Hindu, and it plays very strong against situations like Mayan and Norse.
Yeah, so it's got all these pluses. What's the downside? Why is it now, and primarily for the counter to Norse to Hindu? Why not earlier?
I think if we're talking about downsides, Roman is just it's a stable Pantheon. However, being stable doesn't always mean successful, because as you've seen, like certain gimmicks like Tenacity and Discord are not often executed efficiently. So you end up spending X amount of mana and a certain turn getting nowhere because your opponent will just silence it. The point is, a lot of Roman's themes are more actually become a lot less potent. Whereas the Mayan death sequence, like you have all this death synergy, whereas Roman only really has Venus, and that's like the primary synergy for punishing of like movement, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, it's the Venus and the Venus, the Tenacity is another way, albeit slightly separately. Shackle works pretty well as well.
Yeah, and it is important. So Popeye's going to be very, very careful playing positioning wise versus fair, because it's going to be a very interesting game. That Crippling Curse is actually I quickly want to talk about that. Crippling Curse is a very, very dangerous and very powerful spell, and using it on a Terra is great. And I think it's actually probably the best one, because that's the other point of Roman is this late game is not as potent as Greeks. And you only got 2 Terras and 2 Sylvanuses. The rest of it is history. So,
yeah, there's not too many that are really these huge creatures that you want to silence, like not a Nike, because Nike you can't even touch. It's just like you said, Terra, Sylvanus, and would you Crippling Curse? Excuse me. Would you Crippling Curse say Hercules?
Potentially, but that obviously relies on the board state. I will say, looking at Pot Pie's hand, he has a lot of damage output, but it's also worth mentioning that Blade Master recently got nerfed. So I think Fair's actually in a pretty good board state here, because no matter what happens, he has, especially with that kill, he has board control, especially over a Silence Runestone.
Yeah, that Runestone is, along with, I would suggest, Learning Hydra and Gladiator, the top thing to silence.
Yeah, I would agree. Just because Runestone, if you don't silence it, you're going to get punished. And we're actually going to see the latter of, I think it was actually the start of the two, the Loranian Hydra going to come in and cause some mayhem. Do you think this is worth a silence?
100%. Absolutely. Silence the Lernian, hit the Curse Warrior with your, what is that, oh god, that's a Gallus, I believe, right?
Gallus.
Yeah.
Gallus,
Hit,
yes.
hit the Curse Warrior with Gallus, hit the Lernian with the Chaos Spawn, run Herc into it, and you still got 5 mana to play with.
I would I would do something along the lines, this is going to silence then, because I think you get a pretty nice Merc off, because ideally you trade Herc into the Hydra, and then you Merc to see if you can try to snag the unit, or at least get 1 damage on Scotty, and then you trade your now silenced and worthless Gallus into a very still much present Scotty.
Yeah, and we see that he's got Farishik's got that bludgeon, which right now you don't even need to worry about that rune stone. It's more of a detriment to Pot Pie now because he can't use that space, and there's no way of really destroying your own units or returning to hand aside from I think the only one who has something like that is in fact the Roman Pantheon, which has the return a unit to hand and deal 6 damage.
I mean, if you do play Hindu or Chinese, you have the ability to recall units, and I guess technically Greek, but we don't talk about Greek here in Smite Prime. But on the same note, though, playing the War Behemoth is a pretty spicy play. What do you think of it?
He just wants the card draw. That's what it is. With all these 1/1s, he can really make a lot of use out of the War Behemoth, like he's gonna do here. Hit the 1/1 with the War Behemoth. You only take 1 damage, and bam, free card. And that's something that I've noticed Romans have a lot of difficulty with is they don't have too many options for card draw.
Yeah, I would actually. Yeah, I've been advocating a change for a very long time, primarily concerning ornaments and just how situational it is and how it's. I'd say the worst card draw in the entire game. So, and obviously, like that's not the high res to change, but beyond that, Roman. I think the reason why their card draw is weaker is because they do have the ability to swing boards. Like we always talk about Blight being some massive board swing, but Roman's over here looking, yo, what do you say about board swing? Because, like, but between Dishonorable and even, like, Rain of Arrows and, like, Enlisting, like, they have so many options to bring the board back in their favor.
They've got Dishonorable, they got Rain of Arrows, they've got Enlist, they've got, the one I mentioned earlier. Yep, they've got Bludgeon, they've got the, recall unit to hand and deal 6 damage to another unit. They've got so many options. Outmaneuver, yes, thank you. That name was going to eclipse me the entirety of the day, and I'd have to play Roman, which who has the advantage here?
I would say, I mean, currently heavily fair, purely for the fact that no matter what Pot Pie plays, he won't really. I mean, he can gift a Moomin here, and he'll actually draw a card, and he will be able to play Hell. But his hand is still relatively small, and at this point, Roman does have the sheer. Just like if we're talking about mana right now, Roman has the ability to go the mile, and for Norse to go the mile, it does require a bit more effort, I would say.
Yeah, this is sort of the matchup of the haves and have-nots. Roman has such massive board clear. They have got board clear on board clear on board clear, and that's traditionally been the biggest struggle of Norse decks, is that you don't have any real board clear.
Exactly, and despite Mayhem being a possible option, that is like when people discuss if Norse is unbalanced or not, especially considering Freya, I always mention that they don't have any board clear. So if an opponent really wants to counter Norse, all they have to do is play a bunch of mid-range or even small units, and Norse will not be able to pull off a victory. And I mean, obviously Roman doesn't have that, but they have enough board clear to, I believe, keep the game going in their favor. Especially if you're fair, you've got Venus, you've got Mercury, you've got Sylvanas, you've got these units that are going to heavily punish and just destroy the Pot Pie's deck right now, I'd say.
Yeah. One play of a Venus in the back, and Pot Pie can't use his leader ability.
Yes, but it's also playing the Venus here is a bit of a. Well, now it's not, but it was going to be a bit of a stretch because he would be able to draw one free card off of War Behemoth, which is why he ended up having to silence it. So Venus is very possible here, but even potentially Merc or Sylvanas, because he hasn't seen the second crippling curse, and I do believe Fair wants to get out a nice healthy Terra, so he may try to, like in this case, bait out a crippling curse.
Yeah, the big draw of Sylvanas being that you can kill him, but you gotta kill that sapling, otherwise he's just right back there as a range 5/4. and we see the Fire Giant come out. This is primarily just for the presence, isn't it?
The presence, but it's also for cheap elimination of the Sylvanas. I'd be more concerned. I'm not exactly sure why Fair put a Sylvanas so aggressively, unless his true plan was to bait out the second Crippling Curse. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So I think that was probably a misplay on Fair's part, because Sylvanas is one of these units that you really want to survive, because he has this like potentially infinity combat where as long as the flower doesn't die, you always get one back, and it creates a huge issue for Norse to try to deal with it because they only have 2 Crippling Curses.
But look what Pop Pie had to do to play into it. He had to drop the Fire Giant, use one of the imps on it, had to use his 1/1s, had to use his War Behemoth to wind up dealing damage to it as well, and yeah, he's got board control, but for how long? Because as we mentioned, what does Roman have tons of? Board clear, a la Rain of Arrows.
Definitely. So, especially via that sexy dishonorable Rain of Arrows into dishonorable. And I think you were definitely right when you mentioned he had to run a lot into it. But at the same time, when you have a 4/6 with charge, granted Blade Master is still nerfed, but it doesn't impact his stats though. Like, despite the 1 health reduction, he's still a 4/6. A 4/6 is incredibly hard to kill without hard removal.
Indeed. Now,
especially when you have no board.
Yeah, you're fair. You're fair, Shake. You're looking at your hand. You're looking at your board. What do you do here?
I'd have to run. Obviously, I'd probably want to run all my damage numbers, but I think the biggest issue is you have to get rid of the soul. So enlist is a probable possibility here. Fire Giant, I'd try to want to save because your opponent still has cards in his hand. Fire Giant can be a very nice cleanup and a very nice like anti-aggro tool. However, he does kind of want to save the enlist because there are cards like Hell, which we have not seen yet, and he probably wants to save it for that. So I think, maybe Fire Giant is the play. Take out the soul, blink Fire Giant on the enemy summoning stone, and you're good to go.
Well, keep in mind he also does have the Mercuries.
Yeah, but I think I like Mercuries personally better when you're cleaning up units instead of engaging, because when engaging you can have extra ticks on the wrong units. So he will go for the play, but he puts Fire Giant in the back, which is do you agree with that?
I think he's afraid of the Crippling Curse, because if you put the Fire Giant in the front, you drop the Crippling Curse, and runs a nice 1/1, or the Blade Master hits it, and Fire Giant's gone. There's all your board gone. I like it in the back. And Pop Pie here looks like he's dropping everything. And this is one thing we always mention with these aggro Norse decks. How long do they have before they start running out of steam? They start losing their big momentum.
Well, in this case, I think it's longer than either of us would have anticipated, just because the Blade Master, Fire Giant, and then now the Hell is going to provide issues. I think his only play is... So here's why I would have personally liked to see Fire Giant up higher, because if he had placed an aggressive Fire Giant, he would have been able to kill the Hell, and then via other maneuvers, he may have been able to tear his way to victory. But on this note now, the Fire Giant is pretty much rendered useless, because if he's going to blink it to anything to kill, right? He's out of range. He can't kill anything besides the 1/1. You're not killing a 1/1 to Fire Giant.
No, that is just a waste of time and energy. But had he played the Fire Giant in the front, we wouldn't have seen the Hell. What we like seeing is we would have seen the Crippling Curse and the 1/1 come out, and I'm guessing the Terra's coming in here with that maneuver, and yeah, that's everything stunned aside from the soul. And I love the positioning that he has here with the Fire Giant on the opposite side of the Terra.
I don't think there was much of a difference he could have done, but like at the end of the day, that positioning is pretty sweet. However, I think Pot Pie's got this in the bag because between the Curse's, granted he has no cards in his hand, but you're not really looking for that because you've got to charge Jameer.
Yeah, that top deck runestone was vital. Albeit,
bad man. Feels
albeit
bad.
it's pretty possible that you could have gotten the top deck runestone when you've got 6 cards left in your hand. That's something we need to look at. This game has been going on so long. Fairshik has 3 cards left in his deck, and Popeye has 6. Fatigue's gonna start being a problem soon.
It may, but I think Pot Pie is going to close that game out before anything like that happens. Because Bear's only possibility right now would be a mixture of Cupid and like, I mean, Cupid's and Venus's, he will be able to get some value. So honestly, he's still up against the wall, I would say.
If he drops the Venus, if he's got to drop the Venus first, he cannot stun and knock back with Cupid and then drop the Venus. That
the endless is very possible here. We'll have to see exactly what he wants to do. He's gonna actually Mercury, try to kill some of the 1/1s, and I guess try to acquire board presence. However, those Mercuries will die very quickly, especially when you have a soul. And actually, I believe he also had lethal. Yeah, he did, but via soul. Yeah. So, GG's, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, that... I do not agree with the double Mercury. I think the play there was to use the Venus into the Cupid into the hero power. Could have cleared the Blade Master. Do you think there was an option, or was there just no other option?
I think regardless of what happened, because he had the hell in the back line, it would have ended up the same way. Like, Roman can only do so much against charge units, because regardless, they're always going to hit Summoning Stone. But for the most part, I think fair played is best. I think this does kind of show a weakness, just because Roman does have a tendency to kind of lack board presence. Sure, they can control the board, and sure they can, and sure they can, like, pretty much just mow down the hordes. But who cares when you're only placing a couple big units? Like, if you recall, we only really saw 1 Sylvanas and 2 Terras, and both of them got dealt with fairly quickly.
Yeah.
And where Greek is a counterpart to Roman, because they don't have all the clear, but they do have the big booty units, as we call them.
Yeah, that's the downside with Roman. What's the point in having a clear board if, well, you can't capitalize off of it?
Definitely.
And that's going to do it for this set, with Pot Pie going 2-0 over Fairs. We'll be back with the next set and more Hand of the Gods after this.
Welcome back. It's my boy Myth Unscathed versus Strikero. My name is Myth Comcast. Alongside me is RML. Baby, how you doing tonight? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. I saw Striker earlier. He plays a pretty good Nuwa. And you have your own opinions about Unscathed. I'm very well aware of.
Yeah, obviously he's my boy. I'm rooting. I gotta say I'm kind of biased here. I'm rooting for Unscathed. But who do you think wins this matchup between Norse and Chinese?
Well, personally, I believe that the winner here is Chinese. They have a lot of clear potential, and as we saw in that set earlier, Norse, if they get cleared out, they're done for. If there's a board presence, and Chinese can have that board presence, whereas Roman couldn't.
I agree with you full-heartedly there. Playing a very defensive Harpy for the sake of the Imp Guard's bonus, where I'd say this is one of the strongest, about the strongest 3-drop, just because his ability to get pardon. So, do you think that, like, do you think Unscathed made the right play in putting Harpy that far back?
I personally believe so. Yeah, he needed that card draw. He needed to just, get the cards moving, because that's another Odin weakness, is he lacks that easy card draw. So get the Harpy in the back. If Striker starts rushing him down, which would be very confusing, then he can use it defensively.
He has the Runestone available. Unfortunately, he has no Imp Guard, so I believe Unscathed here. Oh, he will actually play the Runestone. I think that was probably the best play he could have done. So it's going to be up to Striker to cancel it out, which he's able to. However, it's also worth mentioning Unscathed the second Runestone. Typically, when we see double Runestones, things just get out of hand really fast. Do you think that's going to happen here, RML?
I don't think it's going to get out of hand very, very fast, because, again, Nuwa some fantastic clear. Guan Yu being one of the best cards for dealing with Odins and for dealing with Alpwashes. That's extra damage to all enemies when you play a spell, that can get out of hand very quickly. That, especially with Nuwa's power.
I wholeheartedly agree. If there's one thing that everybody can agree on, is the fact that Nuwa does not lack clear. Her ability just to create these Crescent Blades really can create a big impact, especially on low-cost unit decks, such as Norse decks. Wow, what a mouthful. Although here he's just going to kind of get everything fairly low for the potential next turn Runestone Soul. And if Striker sees this, I'm going to be really excited, because that means he's going to aggress on the Summoning Stone, and he's going to say, okay, these guys are dead next turn, let me try them out. Now, if he doesn't see this is going to be a very big transition in the game.
Yeah, I believe he does see it, but still grouping them. I mean, yeah, that was one of the only options to get both on the stone. But interesting, moving that Harpy across the top, and the Freya, well, Freya being one of the only clears for Norse in the game.
I think Unscathed wants to set up his board for the second Runestone. Now, it is also worth mentioning that Striker does have the Guan Yu, so I don't know how long the Runestone is exactly going to live. Probably will live one turn, and so with that in mind, Unscathed is he's still going to get off a lot of damage, and that's something that Runestone provides. It provides unpredictability. Just like with Guan Yu, you can't, the turn it's placed, which is like during your turn, you can't really fight against it. Gonna go ahead and see the Sun Wukong being dropped. Now, Sun Wukong is a very strong unit, but which form do you like best, Lightning?
Well, when it's not bugged out, the movement speed's really good, but I never really use it much. The best form by far has to be that Ox. The knockback attacks means that you're constantly displacing them, and it's especially that 2 damage to all adjacent enemies. It is a very, very good defensive measure. If you're getting swamped by Odin, Wukong Ox.
Yeah, I I would say so, but I may say I think Eagle Form can be really good because it can provide your opponent with unexpected damage. So, is Unscathed going to be able to kill? No, he's not. He's actually going to just completely ignore the Sun Wukong and try to push face here. That's 7 damage, so bringing him down to 16 health. Do you think that Unscathed will be able to pull this game? Because we already know that the Guan Yu is going to be coming down at some point, and he's just going to completely destroy the runestones.
Yeah, I think that if Unscathed can rush down Striker in the next 2 turns, I'm putting a 2-turn time limit on this. If Unscathed cannot rush down Nuwa in these next 2 turns, it is over. The clear that Nuwa has is psychotic. The damage he outputs is also surprisingly good. And if he doesn't wind up finishing it very soon, then it's going to be over before he knows it.
Very interesting and unique play coming out of Strike. We haven't really seen the Habois setting up the zone when it's not on curve, which it did here. So Striker saved the Guan Yu. Why do you think he's trying to save you?
Because Guan Yu is the biggest target, and he also has not seen, because Unscathed is not drawn, and thus is not used, I have 2 crippling curses. Guan Yu is one of those cards, along with Ao Kuang and Suryo's Lernian Hydra, where you want to immediately kill it and get it off the board, because it can and will get out of hand before you even know it. Guan Yu is very easily a crippling curse, dead, or a gift of Moonin and run things into it, dead.
I don't think I would disagree on that, and I know it sounds like I'm fairly in agreement here, but just China has a that was some lucky. I will say that was some nice RNG hitting that one tap on the Sun Wukong, but more importantly, does have the ability, like in this situation, to change board state fairly quickly via Guan Yu, and especially because, like I said, in this case, Unscathed can't play against it. Now, interesting interaction I quickly want to point out. Remember, if your opponent plays Loki, you cannot hit it, no matter what happens, because of the way Guan Yu works. Because a stealth unit does not technically count on as board. There has to be another unit besides Loki that is not stealth for Guan Yu to activate. So here's my question to you then. Do you think Unscathed recognizes this? Or do you think he forgot it? Because we haven't seen any play yet, but the very few people actually know about this. And especially in a situation like this, are going to end up doubting themselves.
I'm hoping that he knows it and recognizes it. So long as Unscathed does not play the Loki, and I'm going to bring back the number analogy of the number pad. So long as he does not play Loki at number 4 or number 6, this Loki will live almost indefinitely, because he does have to keep an eye out for that dragon, and he does recognize it.
Oh no, Unscathed saw the Loki play. I do believe he forgot. Technically, I think. Wait, how many spells does he have in his hand?
He has 1. He can get 2.
He can. Okay. Well, especially because Dragon King will be kind of a risky one. I think, even though I would say Unscathed kind of misplayed on that, it's not really going to matter at this point, because Dragon King can't hit the Loki, so Loki's perfectly fine, which is a very well played positioning on Unscathed part. But I would say on a different note, he doesn't have a ton of access to spells. So maybe Unscathed was playing around that, saying, hey, I don't think my opponent has many spells, so we're going to go this way. Regardless, it's still looking like a pretty clean side. We're going to see the the Blade Master come out. So Blade Master recently got nerfed. How do you feel about its current state?
Personally, I don't think it should be in nearly as many decks now. The reason why everyone was shoving it in, it's 7 mana for a 4/7. That's a very strong body. And that 4/7 also came with a heal. Losing a bit of its tankiness, but retaining the same cost, and losing that heal. Now I think the only decks that really should be running it are people who need board presence. I'm thinking Roman, and Chinese, and I think North should still run it because they like that charge for that quick and easy damage. I don't like it as much in Raw or Opwash anymore. I think you can shove some better cards in there.
Now, it's worth mentioning that Unscathed does have a lethal here if you can manipulate it correctly. If you can have Loki blink onto the summoning stone within range of the suitor, and the suitor's not fully brought up, that will do 7 damage, and then the Thor plus the suitor combo will do the final 10. The question is, does he recognize it? And it looks like he doesn't, which is kind of like, I always want to see the good. I always want to see the clean lethals. We could see, wow, Unscathed will be kicking himself in the shins right now because that was a lethal I've ever seen one myself.
Yeah, what he could have done is staggered it, send the Surtur out, Loki in, and then rush up the Thor. Easy game, easy life. But
that hurts because right now it's going through Unscathed.
Oh, no.
I can call it. Oh, what happened?
oh
Because
no.
now the Dragon King is going to come down pretty much full clearing board.
Yeah, that's...
Unless he wants to fire, he will Fire Giant instead.
I like this
he's
better.
He's up a 3-2.
I like the Fire Giant better. This fire...
Except when you misplay like that, Unscathed gonna take the game with the top deck Crippling Curse. Ouch.
I don't think that's a misplay. That is, as I've said before, and I'll continue to say, sometimes the cards love you. Sometimes they do not. And the cards loved Unscathed there. That was the best move.
Did. Like, I'm not gonna call it, but that top deck has gotta be some Myth RNG right there. But regardless, so we saw the game shift. Do you believe that if he hadn't top decked the Crippling Curse, Unscathed would have lost the game?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That Crippling Curse was the only way for him to deal with the Fire Giant. Because otherwise what was going to happen next turn, the Harpy would have died. If he had played the Brontes would have died. And Nuwa would have that massive board presence still. Because we still saw the Ao Kuang. He still had the Ao Kuang, which that card is so incredibly useful. The +1 damage to all spells, which Nuwa gets a free not free. She pays 2 mana to get a free Crescent Blade. That Crescent Blade hitting for 2, that's about as worth as a Magma Slam.
Pretty much. As we're seeing, Unscathed going to take game 1 to 1-0 against Striker. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Like I promised, guys, we are back. My name is Myth Comcast. Alongside me is RML. My boy Unscathed playing the Raw versus Opwash on from Striker. Seeing a fairly aggressive start with the Awilix. Awilix has gone through some changes. A couple patches ago, she was buffed to a 3-1. Do you think she's? I mean, obviously she's being played a lot, but how viable do you think Awilix is in the current meta?
In the current meta, this is how viable she is. She is mandatory in every single Mayan deck. That 3-1 with the it's a free pardon for your first attack, essentially. That 3-1 can clear just about anything up in the early game, aside from say like a Doom Speaker, because it's 3-4. But she's just so powerful that there's nothing else to say. She's just that powerful. She needs to be in every deck.
I wouldn't disagree, but at the same time, I think Awilix is very strong, but if you draw it at the wrong times, that she can become incredibly worthless. I will say, Striker rocking that beautiful new Halloween skin, which you can actually get by the Halloween packs, as you see Striker sporting the emblem and the card back. But regardless of little pretties, he has access to Poisonous Hydra here, and we've already talked about how strong he is on curve. But do you think there's a world where Unscathed lets the Poisonous Hydra poison hit his Summoning Stone just so he'll have the heal fodder?
I think that's when I was casting yesterday, we saw quite a few Raws. They got that Poisonous on curve, and they just stuck to their curve and let it sit, because he's already got Sobek on the field. That's going to be a nice and easy Sobek heal. He's going to be able to continuously be buffing up that Sobek, be blasting off those Toths. We actually saw Neith last night as well. I think he might let it happen.
Spooky. I agree with you entirely, especially in the case where he can, as we were talking about Magma Slam earlier, he can Magma Slam the Hydra, trade the 1/1 into it, and then actually full clear board with a Sobek in the back. This is what you want from a Mayan, or it's what you want against Mayan. And it's actually why I always talk about Bastet being a very strong counter argument to the Mayan Pantheon, just because these 1/1s can trade really easily. That was actually a bit of a different play than I saw. Choosing to, instead of clear the board, he actually plays his own Poisonous, this time taunting Striker to spend 2 mana and being reduced to 3 mana.
Well, with Striker, with Opwash, he doesn't have the healing to compensate, and Opwash is a bit more reliant on sticking to the curve. So that it's sort of a let me just show you what I can do. But a little misstep, it's not much, but it's something. He didn't attack the stone with the cat. You know?
Well, I think what he was trying to do is he was trying to body block the Hydra, because then the Hydra couldn't hit his Summoning Stone. But I believe that was his intended play. However, that's really holding up applicability now, because he has to kill his Kukulkan. So I'm not sure if Striker to put his Cuckoo that aggressive, but in this case, I do think it's going to kind of backfire, assuming that he actually has exact lethal on the Cuckoo. Do you think he misplayed when he put the Kukulkan so far up?
Oh, absolutely. Normally when you see Mayans running a Kukulkan, which is, again, every single Mayan for the most part, they have the Kukulkan and they shove them usually at the 4, at the 1. Keep them away from the action so that they can keep those tornadoes going. They don't bring out Cuckoo for the 2/6 body. You bring it out because when one of your dudes dies, which is constantly, that's free 2 damage and displacement.
And here is where we see kind of the whole Egyptian hold the poison strat backfire entirely. Because what hurts here is now he's at 6 mana, which is a much more valuable curve than even like the 4 mana, potentially. It's rough because he was reduced to only 3 mana, or my bad, 4 mana, which is a very rough situation to be in, especially when you're trying to fight for board control, and not even mentioning his Summoning Stones at 14 health, Like you don't like you want your summoning stone to take some damage, but never to the point where you're about to go under.
Yeah, that 6 mana, had he not kept the poison, what he could have done there is he could have dropped the scariest card we've seen in a while, the Lernian Hydra. That card is so hard to deal with.
Now
And
we know something that Striker doesn't, or no, that Unscathed doesn't. He has no decays in hand. If he plays this Loranian Hydra, it's going to go uncontested unless he top decks it. That is a situation as a world that no player ever wants to be in.
no, but he's not going to because there was just too much damage on Stone, and he wanted to keep that on her alive because that
Actually,
passive on her is.
I would counter Bubble saying he wanted to keep On Her alive because he's valuing On Her's Warcry because it's very strong against the Mayan Pantheon, and the zombie could have come up and slapped the On Her. So playing the Geb was a defensive tactic because Lorraine was the obvious play, I believe, right? But it doesn't matter because the On Her's value is just more important. Unscathed validates, I think.
Yeah, the Geb was just keep the On Her alive because now it's a nice 3/5. He'll be able to kill the War Behemoth next turn with either the On Her or the Geb, and then likely the best bet would kill the War Behemoth with the On Her, unless that happens.
RNG is no man's maiden. Here we're gonna see it kind of backfire from last game's top deck crippling curse, and we're gonna get a situation where he only has a 3/4 Geb and a bunch of zombies. Now we also know that on the flip end, Striker has Razor Graves, and he's gonna go ahead and bring those zombies back. How can Unscathed deal with this besides Annihilation?
Oh, it's actually very simple. Step 1, move Geb back 1 space to be beneath the stone. Step 2, drop Toth. Step 3, heal Stone and Geb. Those 2 4/4s on the bottom are gone. The 4/4 on the top still alive, but what can you do? This
I
clears
think you
out
forgot
majority.
step 4. Hashtag profit, as we're gonna see
And there you
Thoth just
go.
come down and decimate the board with his yeah type noise. That was my best Thoth impression.
It's a bit longer, a bit more drawn out, but the decay.
It is. Okay. Want to make sure. Moon here just because I think Scott Skates wants to get a unit out on board because he's trying to approach for that lethal condition because he does have the Fire Giant and even potentially the Gladiator. Execute is a possibility, but I'm not going to do that on any of the board currently.
No, I think the bet here is you drop the Anubis to kill the X-Ball, you double heal up, and then you take out... Actually, no, because that wouldn't be enough. The play here might be Fire Giant to clear out the 2 zombies nearby.
And I
we see
believe
that's exactly what it
Unscathed
does.
came to the same conclusion. Gonna bring down the Lord of Fire himself. He's not a god, but he's certainly a demonic fire entity of some sort. Because that 5/8 stat line is very impressive, despite it even getting nerfed.
But there's a Fire Giant of his own, and things are looking very, very uneasy for Unscathed. He's got to deal with this, and excellent placement of Zombie. I believe that makes it so that Geb cannot reach the imps.
He actually can go through his summoning stone, but it doesn't matter because I believe Unscathed or Myth Unscathed is going to go for the Anubis here, clearing off the 2/1/1s. He'll trade Geb, and then he'll be able to kill X-Ball. Now it's also a warning because he is dead. Actually, no, he's perfectly fine to everything that Mayan's got. So I believe that's probably the best play, unless Unscathed sees a different form of lethal. Now it's also worth mentioning that Striker did, in fact, or he does have a Chalk in hand. It's Summoning Stone, but being a 5-mana 4/4, we don't usually often see 2 of them in the deck. least in my experience. How do you
Nah.
feel about that, Armel?
You just want one in for the quick, easy, the okie doke 2 damage. You toss it in, now you got a 4/4 body. And
The Wheelix is not what you want here. You want a Camazotz, and we're not seeing any Camazotz just yet.
yeah,
Unscathed-
Camazotz would be lethal.
Yes, he would be lethal. The question is, how close is Striker to drawing it? Because ideally, Unscathed' gameplay right now is just to heal up. That's all he's got to do. He's just like, I'm just going to heal up, focus on that, and I'll be able to survive, right? But in this situation right now, Striker's at the exact opposite. I just have to smork, because like deck size is not an issue this game. It's just primarily the board. Because if Ra can sustain out the damage, as seen in many of my arena games, he'll be able to pull off the victory.
Yeah, interesting play here. I would have thought that he would have tossed the Chalk Axe on the Fire Giant to take him out, but he doesn't go for that.
I believe Unscathed, or no, Striker is just he's trying to get bodies on the board because he can't necessarily always rely on his RNG to get him the Camazotz he needs. Remember, that is a 1 in a currently 11 chance of being drawn, and that's actually under 10%. So at this point,
Yeah, it's a
you
little
really
under
don't want to
10.
be playing with percents like that. So I think most players would want to leave it up to Camazotz, but Striker, it has the mentality that he seems to establish some sort of board and then pull off the victory.
I think he is holding out for Camazotz. This is a delay tactic. This basically says to Unscathed, hey, you've got a lot of threats on board. What Unscathed has to do is he has to kill the Fire Giant and the Chalk. And the
Well, it's a delay tactic, but at the same time, if any of those units touches stone, it's pretty much GG.
Yeah. And while Ra does have the heals, board health is in favor of summoning stone health is in favor of Striker, and
Drawing 2 cards and dropping the execute. So that Camazotz is looking mighty fine right now. However, he will not be able to hit both of them, or both of those units, and he drew Chaos Spawn. That's not what you want here, is it?
no, not at all. There's a list. Chaos Spawn in the early game is at the top of that list. You want him every single time so you can silence out something early. At the end of the game, you do not want a Chaos Spawn. In that placement of the zombie, that there is saying to Unscathed as well as to Striker himself, I need Camazotz. I get Camazotz, I win. I do not get Camazotz, I lose.
Sometimes I can hear cards' voices. Right now, I hear Sobek saying, place me. Khepri saying, place me. And I also hear the Bastet saying, place me. And that's what we call one big that's what we call one big Sobek. Now, it is worth mentioning the card draw. He's only down 8 cards in his deck, and he would be drawing a way too big a hand. So how many units do you think he should place with Khepri and Sobek?
Personally, what I think he needs to place right now is I think he just needs to body block more than anything. So I think what he should do here is Sobek, Khepri, and then maybe go for, I don't know, like you said, the Bastet. Another option could be Sobek into Lernian, heal from stone.
A very smart play, and one that we probably didn't anticipate coming out. He's gonna kill off the card draw, and this may actually be that's what we call a 5/7 Sobek. Whew! And not to mention he's also out of the Camazotz lethal.
That he is. Camazotz will be able to reach him anyway.
One turn too late. That is what we call frustrating. That's a rough one. Like there's no sugarcoating it. Just as we saw earlier in the tourney, the one card you needed, a turn too late.
But what did he get last turn? Remember how I said Chaos Spawn? You want that early and then not at all late? Sobek at a 5 isn't into that rule.
Silencing a 5/7 to become a 1/3 feels good to just about any player, especially when you're trying to push for lethal. Now, Unscathed Hand is actually relatively strong because he still has the Loranium. Sacred Warrior is kind of worthless, but it's nonetheless a body in lane, and as we all know, you can't go through units, and that's sometimes all you need is just the ability to block it out. Especially with the Bastet, the Bastet will also create a lane blockage for Unscathed.
Wait a minute. Did we see the Blight?
I don't recall we have. Have we?
I don't think so. If we
Blight would be very nice here, and I think Unscathed probably's understanding that right now, and that's why he's going to move his units up aggressively, because in the event of a Blight, he's out of options. He really is. He's going to go ahead and draw one card, producing a Focus Blast, which...
Aha! Aha! I mentioned it earlier, and here it is.
Focus Blast is a very strong card, especially in a type of situation like it is right now. We're gonna see Bastet getting some legwork in, but now she's back to normal. You want Blight here,
Yes.
but Decay will do to some degree. It's gonna help you mitigate quite a bit of damage.
It's, as you mentioned with the Sacred Warrior, it's a body. And what do you need right now? You need bodies. And killing the Sobek off now means that in order to kill this Cabrakan, he needs to, Unscathed will need to pop the Bastet, run the Khepri in, and she'll just need to run the Bastet and the Gebbon in order to kill it.
Placing a zombie in the back line, Annihilation is going to be a possible option, which would just completely eliminate the zombie threat. See, we were so busy caught up with Blight, we forgot to mention Annihilation.
Man, Unscathed card draw has been psychotic today in this tournament.
It has been very gratuitous, especially considering that he can Focus Blast the Summoning Stone, and then, or no correction, he could Focus Blast Cabrakan. There we are, and then he could go for the Annihilation, or he could just do that. Honestly, he has so many plays right here. Either one works. No Camazotz will be able to help him now at 12, sitting at 12 health. And I think if you recall how I said all he had to do was hold out. He held out. Is this the raw profit we expect to see? From just maintaining survivability, honestly?
That's Raw in a nutshell. He heals, he heals, he heals, he heals. And if you can't kill him early, then, well, he's going to stop healing.
You should see Raw in a nutshell. I think it's more of Raw in a light bulb, but the same method applies. Victory. Unscathed going to take the set 2-0. Now, we saw a lot of RNG helping out Unscathed there.
Oh, yes.
Despite him being my myth brother. Do you think that's why Unscathed took the set? Or, do you think it would have turned out differently if his RNG had been a bit worse?
I'm going to be honest. I know he's your bro and whatnot. RNG won him that set.
RNG won him that set. That's what no card drawer really ever wants to heal. But at the end of the day, the set was played fairly well on every other aspect, from Striker and Unscathed both. However, this is the end of Striker's progress today. Hopefully we'll see him back here tomorrow. Unscathed, however, is going to be moving on. Stay tuned, and we will be bringing you the next
I believe
set.
it's the finale next, am I right?
Maybe, but regardless, it'll be fun to watch. long have you waited, debated. Instead, we actually waited a fairly short amount. It's your boy Comcast. I was trying to go with the debated intro because, in fact, it is the finals, just as Lightning was saying at the beginning. As you may have heard, alongside me is Lightning. We got Unscathed, my boy Myth Unscathed, versus a new player we really haven't seen much of. Aid me as I try to pronounce this. Mezile?
Maziljier.
Maziljier. There we go. Well, I'll be calling him Mez for the sake of this. Odin versus Raw. Now, this is a matchup that dates back as long as the game's been in existence. How do you feel about Raw's side in this matchup?
I feel like generally I tend to favor. Well, it relies entirely on the way the cards have been going. If Odin can get his ramp up early, Odin will win hands down. But if Raw can either keep the board clear or can sustain out Odin's early damage, Raw will win in the late. Raw is just strictly better post turn 10.
With those executes, it really does help, especially because you don't have to waste you don't have to waste your leader ability, right, on trying to eliminate a unit. We're gonna see the Khepri come out here excruciatingly early. I say this because usually you want to try to save your Khepri for Sobek combos, but in this case, Mez chose to play defensively. Do you think that was the right play, or do you think that was a misplay?
Now, we saw this earlier. A Raw played a Khepri because he's surrounded by, I believe it was 3 zombies.
Yeah, it was 3 zombies. Yeah.
So he played the Khepri to, clear it out, save some face because he was weary of the, the Raise the Graves. Yeah. Odin doesn't really have a Raise the Graves. Sure, he's got in the Norse pantheon, there's like Coerce, there's Siege, but we really do not see those. What we do see in this deck, Loki, and in hand, Fatalis. That
you are certainly right. Loki Fatalis is the spookiest of plays, and we're gonna see him be able to successfully pull it off. Now that is 12 damage, 16 damage to your opponent, and Raw does not actually currently have the Magma Slam.
I think
so. He's not gonna be able to kill us. We may have to trade.
I think right here, actually, if Unscathed, Ansus get that 1/1 onto Loki, that's 14, 18 damage onto the stone, and if Raw swings Geb into the Loki, Loki will still be alive, and Geb will not.
That is I love that play, but we're actually gonna see him try to save the Anzus probably for a potential Thoth or a potential unit that like on her, right? That's gonna have this very potent ability. Gonna Smork for the win, or attempt to do that. Gonna go ahead and Crippling Curse. Potentially, he's actually gonna go ahead and kill the Geb. Unscathed a bit too fast for words here.
Yeah, Unscathed just he looked at it and he said, "This is my game," and forcing out a very early Annihilation. You only get one of those, and that's the majority of Raw's board clear.
I would say, yeah, that's entirely right. Having the ability to do 4 damage to all enemy units, including enemy Summoning Stone, is a very pinnacle one. And using it that early, you don't have an option, because Musik didn't draw any of the Magma Slams. And we're actually going to see, hey, Vitalis had value last turn. This turn, not so much. That's not your Knight in Shining Armor you want right now.
No.
However, he can push another turn to 6 damage, and then double Rad Tasker could potentially close out the game next turn. However, it is going to come down to how Unscathed is going to particularly orient this.
Yeah, if that Fatalis was a Runestone of Ire,
ooh, that would be delicious.
If that Fatalis was Runestone of Ire, then what he could have done, if he had gotten lucky, which Unscathed has been, swing both rats at the Summoning Stone, and it'd be 1 damage off, but that's not the case, and so he just has to settle for, having board position and having a Raw at 6 health.
The Fist of the Gods draw is a good one because he can in fact stall one of the rats and draw a card. Now we've seen Fist of the Gods receive a ton of play, primarily because of a sentence they added. Draw and or even a phrase, a portion of a sentence, draw a card. And this is where I always talk about card games being hard to balance because you add a single tiny little thing and a card will instantly change. Do you think why do you think? I'll phrase that differently. Hefist has seen so much more play now.
Why? Well, it is cheap, efficient, and effective. You basically that creature, if it's a tiny Ratatosker, monumentally massive, let's say like 9-10 Sobek, you say you're not doing anything this turn, and I have a potential to clear you out. It also gives you a card that is so beyond value that it almost pays for itself in a sense.
Getting that Runestone is exactly what you want at this point in the game. It's gonna allow potential soul lethals with the Fatalis proc. And Skate has got a very good hand right now. All he needs is something to put this hand towards, i.e. he needs some sort of a unit here. And that's gonna be if he can pull off the game here. Or pull off the game. Focus Blast will certainly delay the inevitable, potentially. Healing a Summoning Stone up for 3 and killing a Ratatasker. However, it doesn't change the fact that Unscathed does have the board presence.
I think...
Do you think a Thoth should be here instead?
No, and I'm about to explain why. I think the play here, and he does it slightly differently, I think the play here was drop the second Khepri. And I know you like to save for the Sobek, but hear me out. You drop the Khepri, your stone gets a heal, your second Khepri comes up, the 2 Ratatoskers are down to 2/2, and the Cursed Warrior is dead. Then you draw the Focus Blast, kill one of the rats, heal your Summoning Stone, and then trade the Bastet in to the rat. And it wound up being the same in the end, just in an order that my mind thought in a different order than Mez's, but same effect, massive board presence.
Same effect, and it was a big board shift. So, as we were talking about before, most boards would say, you have a bunch of 1/1s, I don't care. Norse says otherwise, because they can't really effectively clear it. So do you play the Elder Harpy for the draw here, or do you try to save it as a potential buffed unit? Because you need the card draw. But at the same time, that Harpy being at a 3 attack can provide you a lot of comfort. And he actually is going to go ahead and draw a card. Do you think that was the right play, Armo?
I think that whether or not it was the right play is up for debate. I think that was the only play. Because had he not dropped the Harpy, what was going to happen is you would have seen Mez swarm Unscathed. He's got 5 units on the field right now. He could have swarmed in, covered 8-9, 6-3-2, leaving only the backhand of Unscathed board available. By dropping the Runestone, by dropping Cursed Warrior, he just gets put on stone and helps, maintain a bit of a presence.
Dropping the Runestone of Ire here. Now, I had in my mind that he's going to try to save it for a very key moment. But I think I don't know. Unscathed chose to drop his pretty much his winning condition on the board already. Do you think that was a misplay, Armel? Do you think he should have saved it for a unit that could have better used it?
As I mentioned with the Harpy, he definitely should have, but he literally couldn't. He needed a presence. He was running out of time. This is a problem that Odins have late is they run out of steam very quickly. What did I say? If he doesn't kill by turn 10, it's going to be Ra's game, and look who's up at turn 10.
Very true. He's going to need more than just an Anzus to win, especially now because he already played as Loki. Now, playing an early Loki can be very strong, however, it can also be very detrimental. And we saw both sides of that coin. Like even though he's my teammate, I gotta say I don't think Unscathed can win this game currently. I think just having the ability to not be able to hit Summoning Stone is Mez's greatest strength right now. Like his opponent Unscathed can't hit Summoning Stone no matter what he does unless he goes for some unless he kills the cat, but then he's down to 8 mana, and we both know that he doesn't have any he doesn't have any way to deal direct damage because he already used the Runestone. So do you? I mean, obviously we don't have deck list available. Do you know, or would you expect that Unscathed is running charge, like the actual spell charge?
No, not at all.
He's not.
No,
Not at all.
with a North's deck, you have much priority cards. You want, and it depends on your playstyle. You want your Loki Fatalis combos. You want your Ansuses in. You want your Runestones in. You want some easy minions. You want Crippling Curses. You don't have the room to add in a card that literally says this one minion gets charged when you have 2 whole cards that say everything you play gets charged.
You know what I would run right now if I was Unscathed? A nice big fire giant, or no, a Blade Master. A Blade Master would be very spicy right now. However, when you're at this point of the game with Norse and you're just top decking for answers, that is when things get really difficult because we see right here, Unscathed doesn't have anything. Not exactly sure why Mez is pulling back.
What
Do you have
is
any thoughts on why he's pulling back?
I'm completely confused. Why on earth would you pull back? There's the Norse. This is not like you're up against a Roman, where with Roman, if they're not next to each other, they can all go boom. This is Norse. They don't have board clear. I mean, sure, Unscathed gets the soul now, which he's probably saying, where were you 4 or 5 turns ago when I had a Runestone? But
Yep.
I don't see a way out for Unscathed unless Mez doesn't push the aggression. Now's where Raw needs to press the on button.
I wouldn't say press the on button. I think he still wait, to be honest. Just because he's the Egyptian Pantheon, just because he has the healing ability and he has the fire giant in hand, he has these big booty units, as I call them. It's gonna become Mez I would say almost not to lose, to not have a board state, because Unscathed is right now grasping at straws, and I don't know how you're supposed to come back from it, to be honest.
I don't think he can, but I still would have preferred that Mez. He missed out on, I think it was like 3-4 damage on the stone, and the potential to start swarming. Sure, he does that now, but had he had that 4 damage, the stone would be at 6 right now. But what he's going to do is he's going to swamp and kill the Brontes in the back. And
This is looking like a GG
Yeah.
for Mez right now. Oh, that's painful. That
Are
is
you-
painful.
Unscathed.
Where were you X turns ago? He can Anzus. He can Anzus
wipe.
Runestone.
No, he can wipe everything except for the Geb.
How would he kill Goobis?
Well,
Anubis.
Anubis as well. I mean, all the major threats that are at
I
his
get,
stone.
I get, yeah. He could, but then Soul would be 1 health off from dying, and he knows his opponent has got some sort of execute, considering we haven't seen it all game.
No,
Because there's really nothing worth executing.
Soul wouldn't have any damage on her. So
No,
what do you do?
but I still think it would execute just because you're at that point in the game where even a Soul could become very, very dangerous.
Right,
And
you would execute here, but Unscathed this is the play he has to make. Otherwise, if he doesn't make this play, he's dead next turn no matter what. And
And he will go ahead and drop the concede, seeing there's really no other out for him. Wow, Mez the newcomer taking a set off the veteran, 1-0 in Mez's favor. So, do you think that Unscathed? Wait, how? Correction. How did Unscathed lose that game? That's my question. Because he got a very very good start. He did, but he wasn't able to pull it off.
I think that I'm not entirely sure, but I think a large part of it had to do with how's Unscathed been winning. How did Unscathed win the last set? Luck of the draw. How did Mez sort of help win this set and Unscathed didn't? Luck of the draw. Mez drew the right cards at the right time or already had them in hand, whereas there were 3 turns straight where all Odin could do was drop a Cursed Warrior. That there is, as an Odin, you do not want to have turns where you are doing nothing.
Indubitably. Stay tuned. We bring you back set 2, and we have to figure out if my boy Unscathed will be able to pull back the set. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the finals. Mez up 1-0 on Unscathed. Newbie versus veteran. It is myself, Myth Comcast, otherwise known as a Comcast employee. Alongside me is RML Lightning. So, what have we got in store for a Norse v Mayan matchup?
These matchups are, personally for me, very similar. They tend to have fairly similar play styles, a bit more aggressive, trying to get your opponent down, and there's no heals on either side because Blade Master doesn't have that heal anymore. And we likely will not see it in either deck because of it.
I would say we'll see the Blade Master and Norse. It does have aggression. It's still body and lane. Because honestly, the heal is an added bonus to help against aggro. But that's another story for another topic. Gonna go ahead and unleash both his X-Balls. Now, I think this is actually kind of a misplay, because X-Ball is a very critical unit you need to save for a late-game Norse. So playing it this early is very weird.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this?
X-Ball is so vital at the end for dealing with those 1/1s and dealing with all those creatures that have sort of been battered down. And playing them both now just to deal with... What do you deal with? A Scotty and a Cursed Warrior? That's But hey, there's a reason I'm a caster, and I'm not playing here. These guys are making these massive decisions.
I would agree so, because it's always easier to come from the casting booth, whereas on the field it's much different. I will say it did give him tempo, and tempo is a thing that's sought out by both pantheons in order to successfully pull off an easy victory. We're gonna see the Gallus take or Gladiator take 2 damage, and do you think a potential Blood Bond is in order, or Cabrakan? No, we're gonna say Cabrakan.
I was gonna say Blood Bond here. This gladiator's not gonna be able to do. Why would you waste a Blood Bond on a gladiator that you can pretty easily deal with? You've got 2 X balls, 1 already hit it. You don't want to waste your Blood Bond on that. And besides, you want to keep those X balls for pressure. Typically with Blood Bond, you want to use, say, a silenced creature or a zombie with it, and hope that the RNG picks it.
RNG is no man's maiden. However, Suitor is everybody's maiden because that card is strong. How do you feel about Suitor, RML?
I love him. I love Suitor.
love
It's especially with Odin. Turning those 1/1s into 2/1s makes for the easy trades like that, and we're gonna see, I'm pretty sure, almost an entirely even trade with Unscathed keeping that Surtur up, which honestly
is a delicious, value. We're seeing the Veninator here. So Veninator is an interesting card. It's been through a variety of changes, but I think the most notable one is the fact that it's now a 5-drop ranged 5/3 that does in fact give a buff to your friendly unit. So of 2/1. Do you we haven't seen Veninator though very often. Do you think this is a justified unit here in this deck?
I honestly don't know why we don't see Venator more, especially in these 2 types of decks, specifically with the Opwashes and the Odins. These decks revolve a lot around, like we mentioned, early aggression and having those small creatures. The Venator is that is a scary figure. A 5/3 is scary, and then you turn something else to give it +2/+1. Now, if you're an Opwash, no.
The early Blight coming out.
No.
I will say, I was thinking of that. I really was. I thought that is a very possible outcome, because the second Mez loses board, he's never going to get it back. More importantly, though, the Freya here is a very likely possibility, because it will fully clear board. It'll give him the presence. However, it's not it's not one of those feel-good Freyas. You know, sometimes you have those situations where you'll get lethal, or you'll get complete under board control via Freya. And other times you have this type where it's just frustrating. And I think he's gonna avoid the feels bad Freya, and then gonna just attempt to clear board in a reasonable manner.
Yeah, and interesting that he went for the one in the back rather than the one there. My guess is he's worried about this bad boy here, the Camazotz.
So, Camazotz usually don't see on curve. He's generally a late game finisher, but he does have potential, just like with any card, to be played on curve and be potent. The Veninator, I think, is actually and we're actually gonna see the Cuckoo instead. Do you think that was the best possible play? Because I think I would like to see Veninator there, to be honest.
With the Venator there, if you play it, it will die next turn, because the Thor will trade out with it. And in that case, Thor's worth, because Thor being a 4-mana card, just dealt with 7 mana of yours. By playing the Cuckoo, Thor cannot kill this Kukulkan without some help. He just can't. And if
he'll do 3 damage, he'll need an extra 3. Now, back in the day, Freya ordering for the Banished did matter. I believe things have changed a bit, and now it does not. Obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, but I really hope Unscathed sees this, because if he attempts to go for the Freya, banishing first the Cuckoo and then killing the 2 zombies, he's gonna get a rude awakening of just his entire board being gone.
Yeah. The only other play here is to Well, looks like he's just gonna. Ooh, that's a lot
Poisonous
of damage.
Hydra is going to come out with that charge. That is what we call a spooky October gift right there.
Happy Halloween.
A three-headed green Hydra attacking your summoning stone with charge. So, but all jokes aside, how do you deal with this if you're Mez?
Well, normally I'd say you're off wash. Just hit him once with that cuckoo and, drop the blight. Oh, wait. You used it already. Alright, let's use a decay. You don't have one. Silence? Wrong Hydra. There's no easy way.
Actually, the Venenator would kill the Venenator bonus on Cuckoo would in fact kill the Hydra. However, I'm not sure why Mess is holding it. I would just let loose the unintended card, kill the Hydra,
Oh,
right? And then
oh,
you three on board.
Camazotz.
What? Camazotz, I don't think he'll be coming out here. There's really
A
no reason.
7/7, 2 Tornado Blasts.
There we are. So
He does go with that, but the 2 Tornado Blasts could have killed the Hydra, or the Runestone, or the Thor, and then again 7/7.
we'll take an additional 4 damage here. I swear, it's not looking for good for Unscathed. Despite him having board presence, it's not gonna cut it. I think what you have to do is like I think Freya, you have to do here. Like you don't have an option. But
Yeah.
in order to save actually quite a bit of damage, I think the other call is to banish only the Chaos Spawn, Cuckoo, and Venenator. So you'll be actually taking no damage of your own. And then from there, you'll be able to... Oh, yeah, we will see that. Let's see if he sees... Oh, he will. Okay. So he's fine with taking some damage. Because the Runestone is another target, but unfortunately, Thor, that is not the case. If he plays Soul here, this could become a very devastating situation. Very, very devastating.
Soul here wouldn't have affected anything because she was still silent, because the Runestone was silenced.
No, yeah, I know, but I'm talking along the lines of just next turn, because then he would have had 4 plus potentially 7, which is that, or no, that becomes 7 and 10 potentially lethal next turn.
Yeah.
However, the decay will definitely muck things up, especially if he does choose to go for the Camazotz. Do you think he was playing around Razor Graves / Camazotz when he killed the extra zombie?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you think he was playing around the Camazotz / Razor Graves?
Oh, definitely.
Okay. Yeah.
Definitely. If he left that up, then that would have been a huge amount of damage. And the 6/6 that this is a very, very feels bad Camazotz, because guess what? Frey is just gonna whack him next turn, but if she does that, here's the Cuckoo Tornadoes.
Oh wait, I think he's one off. No,
No, he has lethal.
wait, does he have lethal? He
Yes,
does.
he does.
Runestone.
Actually, yeah, because if he deploys,
If he brings Freya over, I think he can attack the Venenator.
all he needs
obviously-
to do is drop Soul.
He can't.
No, yeah,
Oh,
drop.
no, he does. He does.
Yep,
Wait.
drop Soul, Curse Warrior to finish off Camazotz, Hasten Fatalis, either Freya or the Harpy, run them both in, Bob's your uncle, game over.
If we're kind of debating this, I don't even know what's going through Unscathed mind right now, as he's desperately trying to look for a lethal. We believe he's spotted. We're gonna see that Fatalis come out. 3 more damage. Now all he needs is a soul hit and a unit, and this will be GG. Unscathed taking back the set he just lost to a 1-1. Both of them tied. So this game seemed a lot less really had anything to do with top decks. It was just it seemed much more subtle.
Yeah, that's...
and much more controlled. Do you think? Because honestly, I want to talk about Mez here for a second. We haven't seen a whole lot of Mez, so we don't really know what we're expecting. But how do you think he played this game overall?
I think he played this game a fair bit better. My only concern is he dropped his clears very early.
Very
That-
early.
That
Do
early
you, do you
blight.
think that's why he lost?
I think so, yes. Because if he had that blight there, then he drops blight, entire board is clear, sets up for beautiful Camazotz. Camazotzing after a blight, like the turn after a blight, is just...
Is delicious. It's delicious and nutritious. Stay tuned. We'll be bringing you Game 3 of the finals Smite Prime tournament. So stay tuned, and we'll talk to you guys in just a bit. Ladies and gentlemen, it is your host, Myth Comcast, or a Comcast employee. Alongside me is RML Lightning, and we are in the final game of the tournament, Unscathed on the Raw, and Mez on the Odin. This is what you guys came here to see, the final of the finals. RM, what can we expect from this very heavy matchup?
Well, I believe we saw this in game 1, but flipped. And I'm gonna say
we did.
I'm gonna say the same exact thing now that I said then. Odin's win condition is win before turn 10. If Odin does not win before turn 10, then generally Raw wins. Simple as that.
As simple as that. Unfortunately, the execution of it is not that simple, considering you need certain cards to pull off, and we're actually going to see Hydra come out. And Unscathed putting kind of a different type of Hydra we usually see. We usually see an aggressive poisonous Hydra, but this time we're seeing a very passive one. Do you believe that's because he's trying to play base defense?
I think it's part of it's playing base defense. The other part of it is if Odin moves forward, he wants that Hydra to take damage and still be in heal range so that he could still, keep buffing up that Sobek. If Mez moved these guys forward, you would want to have the Hydra and the Sobek in the same column to double buff the Sobek. It's as simple as that.
Now, it is worth mentioning that Mez can take out the Hydra, but actually she chooses not to take 4 damage. That was a mouthful. The poison here could be really strong. There's actually a couple of plays he could potentially silence the Ymir, because as we all know, Ymir used to be a 5-drop, but Hi-Rez recently, or I guess semi-recently, changed him to a 4-drop. And that being, and like with that in mind, Ymir is very, very strong because he mitigates all return damage every time because his attacks freeze. So, do you think the silence is justified in this case, Lightning?
I definitely do. I said this about Ymir before. Ymir is a cheaper, better Hydra. He's 2-mana. Not Hydra. Cheaper, better Fury.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
2-mana cheaper.
Because he also nullifies the unit's movement and attack, right?
Yeah. The Fury, they attack, just means that they don't get damage back. Ymir, sure, he has less attack overall, but he freezes them so that your allies also take no return damage. They can't move away. They can't do anything. It's just stun is better than just immune to return damage.
A very passive turn coming up from Unscathed, not playing any sort of clear and not having silencing, and actually choosing to go with the card draw. Now, it's also worth mentioning that he still has the 2-drop poison in his hand, and Mez, he did also play Venenator, so that means he's going to take another 4 damage this turn. So I want to actually go back to a comment you said earlier, or I guess your phrase you said earlier about how Norse has to win before turn 10. Do you think Mez is in this mindset that I win before turn 10, otherwise I lose, and that's why he's taking this extra damage because it's not going to matter in the late game?
I personally, yes, absolutely. There's a mindset you sometimes get when you're playing. You probably get the same thing. You're on that ranked ladder, and you're like, it's late. You've been playing for hours, and you're like, I just want to win. Let me just go through the motions. And sometimes you forget about things such as the Hydra's poison, or you misclick and your Cursed Warrior, rather than killing that Sobek, steps to the side of it and attacks a stone.
Now, this is a really good situation for Unscathed. I'm not going to say it because he's my boy, but because Mez has kept this poison with him. And so instead of playing it early and maybe taking a passive turn, he tried the favorable aggressive turn every turn, but he has to get rid of it. It's 4 damage, and it'll bring him down to 13 health, which is actually, I believe, like 1 or 2 damage off the half threshold. So this is a situation that Mez does not want to be in, especially when you're playing an aggressive Norse deck. Like, if you were playing an aggressive Norse deck, the last thing you want to hear is, oh yeah, I'm taking more damage than my opponent.
Yeah, and right there we see it. I brought it up earlier, and I think it's going to make a rise. The Focused Blast. He uses that Hydra to clear the buffed Cursed Warrior, and then just heals it right back up like nothing happened to also clear the Venator.
Well, I mean, everybody runs Focus Blast. It's just that they may run only 1 or 2, or they may run only 1 and they'll run double Magma Slam, and the value of the card, if we totally just saw it right here, healing up full a Hydra, and I mean it's turn 6 and he hasn't touched his Unscathed Summoning Stone. You could almost say Unscathed Summoning Stone is
Don't you dare.
Unscathed.
I knew you were going to do it.
You knew it was coming. You knew it was coming. Don't even tell me you didn't.
And yep, there's the drops. He invests a lot. That Hydra got worth. That Hydra
was extremely worth. Not to mention that he can play a Kelder here and poison, and that's it. So that's his only play here. No, he's gonna take another 4 damage. This is nearly unheard of. He's just completely forgetting, like, he doesn't care. He's just saying, I'll deal with the poison at a later date. I'm sure Unscathed is kind of laughing, but at the same time, it's also kind of bad for Unscathed, because it means that Mez is saying, I'm not giving up tempo that easily. He's fighting for tempo. And that's something that the Rod does not want to have happen against them.
The problem with leaving that poison in is that win by turn 10 timer has dropped down. Actually, if Unscathed does not touch Mez's stone, it is literally a win by turn 10 or you die, like full stop. And I just think that Mez needs to seriously start outputting some mass.
Oh, that is what you want. Unscathed, gonna get that sweet, sweet, curse last breath, that cursed last breath on exactly the targets that you need. I mean, they only do 2 damage, but it's not about the damage. It's about the control that they bring. Ymir's bring a certain amount of control that is just completely and utterly uncontested. You physically cannot hit through the stun. The only 2 units in the game that provide anti-CC is a Greek card that nobody cares about and Geb. Now, Geb is obviously a very viable option here, but so if you're Mez right now, do you just bite the bullet, say, okay, I'm just going to get rid of this poison, I'm going to play Runestone, and maybe I'll play my own unit, and then just take the L on the board state?
There's a play here that I spotted. He can get a 7/7 mercenary out and still drop the poison. Or 6/6 that Ymir can't make it back in time.
Yeah. I think that's by far the best play. However, I don't know if Mez will see it. It looks like he does, however. Oh, I guess he did not want to remove Scotty, in all fairness. Okay. No, he wanted to kill the card draw. So 5/5 is fairly intimidating on board. However,
that
Unscathed
what?
still has more health than
That's too. Yeah, he messed up there. He missed out on another 2 damage onto the stone. He didn't run the other Ymir in.
Oh, he did. Yeah, you're totally right. However, a Chaos Spawn will make quick work of the Mercenary because, those are buffs, and buffs can be silenced. No Runestone just yet. I think Mez may, even unintentionally, be trying to wait out the Magma Slam. Whether it's intentional or not, it doesn't frankly matter, just because of the way Unscathed hand is looking, and is looking fine. We could see the Geb come out. I would like to see the Chaos Spawn. Just, get rid of that 1/1. Maybe even drop the Khepri. That'd be nice. He's actually going to go ahead and Magma Slam the Scotty. So now Mez is in a great spot to play his Runestone, and that's something that, I'm pretty hyped to see.
Ooh.
This could be a comeback he needs.
Gift Immune in. Runestones. Would you play the Runestone or the Soul here? War Behemoth. He wants that card.
War
draw.
Behemoth is definitely the play here, considering that your board's kind of null. You don't want to, if you're Unscathed, you don't want him drawing cards, unfortunately. But I do believe a Khepri would be very, very nice here. A very, very nice Khepri indeed. But it's turn 8, and like you said, your timer is ticking. It's getting later and later, and Unscathed is getting more comfortable and more comfortable. These 1/1s, especially because nobody runs Siege nor Frenzy, they're looking not very intimidating right now.
Yeah, but I must commend Mez on the positioning of this Cursed Warrior and this Calder. It prevents the Toth from coming out, leading into some major heals. And this Fire Giant on curve, I think it's a bit of desperation, really.
I've said this on stream multiple times. I don't like Fire Giant on curve, just because he gets killed very quickly. And as we're seeing in this case, this is exactly why. He souls a Crippling Curse, and he's going to play Runestone. He's going to drive a singular unit into his Fire Giant.
No, he's not. He's got Soul.
Who needs that when you have a Soul? What am I saying? Well, maybe Unscathed
Don't do it.
He will not need to, especially when you've got a Soul on board. Now, Soul's been hotly debated on whether it needs a nerf, just because of that massive cleave AoE. That cleave AoE will ruin a game, or will ruin you entirely. Now, it's also worth mentioning he has a second Soul in hand, just an additional 2 damage. So if he only clears the Soul, which is unlikely but still very possible, he will only have 5. He only have 2 health remaining. This is not a situation you want to be in, and especially just because board does have the board. Norse does have the board control.
And I do want to bring this up. there is no matter. So there are a very small amount of plays that Unscathed can do, and he's gonna Toth there and Capri.
Oh, well, I mean that'll make quick work of the charge. So I guess he actually is fine. He will draw a card unless it's a Freya or a Scott or a Freya or a Loki. It's not going to mean a whole lot, and it's not going to mean a whole lot. He may save. He does have a second runestone, which is pretty volatile here. That is 5-7 damage on board towards Unscathed 10 health summoning stone. You'll have 3 health remaining. So we call nail biters, and there's no better match.
Yeah, this is. I think Unscathed loses here because this crippling curse onto the Toth, Runestone of Ire, drop your second soul, hit the summoning stone with both, full clear, and the summoning stone will be at see here, 5, 3, 2 health because he can also afford that Cursed Warrior.
You need Annihilation. I think that's your only out. Actually, no, that won't even be the out that you need. You'll actually be at 3 health, and then then 2 health with the Cursed Warrior.
This is game.
Capri will only help you so much. Wow, looks like the newcomer is about to take the tournament against the old and hardened Unscathed. What, like, how did it come to this? Like, he was doing fine early. Do you think it's because he didn't draw his Annihilation, or do you think it's just sheerly the power of Runestone?
It is that play that we said was a mistake, but Mez knew. Keeping that poison, staying on tempo, allowed him to constantly keep the board clear, keep the board from getting out of his control, and now he's in. It's turn 10, and he's going to win because of it. Because even if Unscathed is somehow able to clear everything off the board, he's still 2-3 turns away, because in order to clear everything, he wouldn't have enough mana to heal.
He will deal 3 damage there. He needs to find some way to heal more than just 1.
If Anubis was 1 mana low,
that is the game. Mez taking the tournament by storm. The new player finding victory. Unscathed, that was a very well done set. Despite there were the small little misplays on both sides, both players showed a high level of play. That does in fact conclude the tournament. Mez, like I said, taking the first place spot. Unscathed taking the second place spot. So we've seen a lot of unique things in this tournament. And I obviously point towards the Hindu. But what was your favorite match?
My favorite match was a set I casted with Sinbreed during, I believe it was quarterfinals. There was the best, Barter Soul draw I have ever seen or will ever see. Do you want to know what he drew with Barter Soul?
Was the Fire Giant plus Lamian?
Fire Giant, Lernian Hydra. That
yes.
is disgusting. If I were on Platter and I saw someone draw those 2 cards specifically with a Barter Soul, I don't care how high up I am going to concede. And
hit that F6 button. For myself, I obviously enjoyed the Hindu match. That was very entertaining, and it's very interesting to see what types of decks people are running with Hindu. Well, like I said, that concludes it for tonight. Everybody, come back next Friday, I believe, for the next Smite Prime tournament. But if you're looking for more Hand of the Gods action, there's actually another high-res sponsored tournament tomorrow. I believe 11 a.m. EST, so make sure if you guys are interested in that, you sign up for that. Before, my name is Comcast / Myth Comcast / Comcast employee. Comcast is the key word there. Alongside me is RML Lightning, and we will see you next week.